Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the June 10th, 2025 meeting of the Chatham Select Board. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chair. No one in the audience, no one online. So we will proceed. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28, 2025 signing of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until June 30th, 2027, this meeting of the Chatham Select Board is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately address the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 203-386-491#, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, Xfinity Channel 1072, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. The first order of business is to establish a quorum, so I will call the roll. Ms. Davis.
Present.
Mr. Dykens.
Present.
Mr. Metters.
Present.
Mr. Smith.
Present.
And the chair is present, so we have a unanimous board. First order of actual activity on business is the approval of minutes of the meeting of June 3rd, 2025. I will take a motion.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any corrections? I will call the roll. Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Dykens.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And the chair votes, the chair abstains. So it's 4-0, 401. Next item on the agenda is public announcements and agenda item requests. Are there any from the board? Seeing none. Are there any from the audience in person? Mr. Berman. Hi, Greg.
Hi all, Greg Berman, Director of Natural Resources. As was stated in the main sheet, there will be a ribbon cutting for the MCI trails over at Riders Cove on June 26. We just wanted to personally invite the Select Board and anyone listening at home to attend and celebrate the kind of grand opening of the kiosk, picnic tables, benches, and trails that have been worked on by the town and our partners.
Yeah. Thanks so much. And again, we would just really love it if we could have somebody from the Select Board come there. We're going to have a ribbon cutting. We think we're going to ask Barb Cottham to cut the ribbon because she's worked so long and hard on this. But there would be an opportunity for a Select Board member to say a few words at this event if anyone is available and free. It will be a very short event. It starts at 4, speaking at 4:15. We're going to have cookies and drinks, and it'll just be fun. And we're so happy those benches are lovely. So thanks.
I think it's very appropriate that Barbara be the one to cut the ribbon, and this is the announcement I'm holding up here. So we look forward to that. I appreciate your coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will also mention, I think it's tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock at the Eldridge Public Library. We are opening History Month. The town manager will read a proclamation, and that'll kick off a number of events. The chair has a couple of announcements I'd like to mention. First, we just had some interviews for the Affordable Housing Trust. We have one public at-large seat that is up for reappointment. There is an incumbent. We have another seat that is to be filled by a representative of the Affordable Housing Trust. There is a third seat that is, actually I misspoke. There are two public at-large seats that are currently filled by incumbents who are both seeking reappointment. There is a third seat that is to be filled by a representative of the Community Housing Partnership, and the individual in that position is seeking reappointment. There is a fourth seat that is under the current bylaw to be filled by a member of the Select Board. The Select Board chose last week to keep that seat open until the Attorney General passes on the bylaw that change that was voted at the most recent town meeting. It is my hope and desire, since we have multiple candidates that we have yet to interview. We've interviewed four people already for this board, and we have perhaps 4 or 5 more. We'll try to get some of these interviews done, all of them done. I would hope to place this on the board for a vote on the 24th, which is our next board meeting, because all appointments expire on the 30th of June. That's my desire anyway. Secondly, with respect to another appointment, as you all know, we have a vacancy for the town's principal representative on the Cape Cod National Seashore Advisory Committee. It's been mentioned several times. I received a communication from a citizen, I'll mention his name, John Whalen, expressing a willingness to serve as the Chatham representative. We simply make a nomination to the feds, and they select the person. So that's been vacant for a while. I would very much like to have that filled on the 24th, one way or the other. If anyone else is interested in serving on that, they should notify Kathy Lewis, our assistant, and I would encourage them to notify them by a week from today.
So there are 2 additional names.
There are 2.
Yes,
So
so
we'll
there's
have-
a total of 3 right now, and I did want to touch base with you at some point about interviews and.
So we'll have to interview them. Well, maybe we won't be able to do them on the 24th, but we will try. Those are my 2 announcements. So we'll now proceed to a public hearing to consider increases to the current list of Town of Chatham transfer station fees as follows.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, there's one more person who,
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Peter Gaines, and I'm Commodore of the Monomoy Yacht Club. For many years, as I think you know, the Yacht Club has sponsored the annual Harbor Update, and we're pleased to be able to do so again this year. A year ago, we had about 150 people attend the annual Harbor Update at the Community Center. It was really standing room only, and this year, the Orpheum Theater has generously donated or let us use the large theater. The annual Harbor Update is this coming Saturday. It's June 14th at 10 o'clock in the morning, and it is open to the public. Chatham Harbor Master Jason Holm, Harwich Harbor Master John Harker, BMSC Ross Comstock, officer in charge of Coast Guard Station Chatham, a representative from Cape Cod Sail, the Power Squadron, and the Coast Guard Auxiliary will all preview the summer 2025 season and to see how the navigation of our waters has changed. I don't need to tell the Select Board, because you have been very vocal in your support, that this year in particular, we know the Coast Guard is planning to eliminate buoys that are essential to our waters for navigation. I expect that Ross Comstock will be asked many, many questions. So thank you very much, and just a PSA.
This event is without charge.
This is without charge. It's open to the public. And if you're going there, again, the Orpheum Theater very generously allows us to use the theater, so maybe if you're going, you should buy some popcorn.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the announcement. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
I apologize if there is anyone else. Mr. Phillips, you have an announcement, I guess. Okay.
Brian Phillips, 374 Orleans Road. I got my H2O pledge sign, and it's a good thing, and everyone should join up for it. It means you don't really water your lawn, you don't use fertilizers. And the lady that dropped off the sign, she was really nice, and she said that there are actually 2 selectmen that have taken the pledge, and she asked me to guess who it was. And because when I ran against Dean and Corey and they said that drinking water was the most important thing, I guessed them, but it wasn't. It's Mr. Dykins and Miss Davis who took the pledge. So, Mr. Nicastro and Mr. Metters, I expect you guys taking this pledge pretty soon. And then the other thing, I don't know, it was kind of a weird thing. I went to the wastewater Water and Sewer Advisory Committee today, and it was scheduled for the annex, but there was nobody there. And luckily Mark was here, and he was able to turn on a bunch of computer screens in there, and I was able to do it remotely, but I thought it was kind of weird that it was scheduled for there and then no one was there. So I don't know what that means. I don't get in trouble because I really like that guy Bruce. He does a good job, but I just thought that was kind of strange the first time I'd ever seen that.
That was I was not able to attend. I had a conflicting meeting, but I'm the liaison. And I saw some email traffic over the last few days. That was, I guess it must have been posted as a hybrid meeting. I don't know, but it was initially. But they decided to do it as a virtual meeting, and so I apologize for that.
Yeah,
I'm glad you were able to.
It was posted with the link on the agenda. It was initially posted, though, as in that room, and for whatever reason, it shifted. But because the public was able to participate via the room, it was left as is. So apologize for the confusion.
All right, thanks.
Thank you for bringing that up. Any other public announcements or agenda item requests from the audience, either online or in person? Okay.
I have a comment.
Mr. Smith, go ahead.
Referencing the previous speaker, I think there is a problem with that posting. We can go on, we can deal with it now or offline, but there's actually a couple of issues with this posting. So I'd like to add to an agenda request how meetings are to be posted and to make sure that we are in compliance with the open meeting law.
So you'd like to have a discussion of that?
If you would, please, yes.
Okay, we'll take that as a select board member request. That'll be number 63.
Sorry, well.
That's okay.
You know, I'm new, so I can add a few things, I
That's
think.
all right.
So
Okay,
a couple of other things, the outstanding agenda requests, there's, like you said, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Are we commenting on that at some point?
Yeah, that will be coming up later in the meeting
Okay.
under my item about what I propose to do.
Good. And I'd like to add to some future, which can be down the road, maybe in the fall, the town manager's policy on code compliance and how the town goes about enforcing their codes.
Which codes do you mean? Like
All of them. A general discussion on how we are undertaking our responsibilities under the charter when it comes to code compliance.
Okay,
Thank you.
we'll add that to the list as well. Very good. Okay, and none other. Okay, so now we'll proceed to a public hearing on the following: to consider increases in the current list of Town of Chatham transfer station fees as follows. 9 to 11 bags of garbage increase from $15 to $20. Commercial garbage increase from $90 a ton to $175 a ton. Commercial single-stream recycling increase from $110 a ton to $150 a ton. Chair upholstered increase from $5 each to $15 each. Demolition or construction debris increase from $190 a ton to $225 a ton. Mattresses and box springs increase from $30 each to $50 each. Sofa increase from $15 each to $30 each. Large truck tires increase from $15 each to $20 each. Fire extinguishers increase from $2 each to $10 each. And to consider establishing a new category of transfer station fees, crib mattresses. Establish this item and charge $10 each. Before I ask the clerk to read the public hearing notice, I want to disclose that I am a customer of one of the local trash haulers. I do not believe it is cognizable as an actual conflict under Chapter 268A, but in an abundance of caution, I would probably recuse myself. However, it is my understanding that a majority, at least a majority of this board, are similarly situated, in which case, if everyone recused, we would not have a quorum to deal with this issue. So we might have to, I suspect, invoke what is called the rule of necessity. So I'll leave it at that before I call on the clerk. So if any other member of the board wants to make a disclosure, Mr. Matters.
Mr. Chair, I think from past history, we've done this a couple of times. I'm one of the parties that have a relationship with a commercial hauler. Obviously, my household trash, I have a sticker, but for my businesses, I do contract a private hauler, so.
Anybody, Mr. Dykens?
I have a family member that does contract with one of the haulers, so.
Anybody else? Mr. Smith?
I also engage with one of the private haulers as well.
So,
I might as well say that the
You're the only
business
one
I
clean
work
here.
with has a commercial hauler.
So the rule
Yeah,
of
so-
necessity applies.
so we've all made the declaration under the rule of necessity, so I'm going to move that we invoke the rule of necessity and allow all of us to participate in this matter, and I'll entertain a second to that motion.
I'll second.
Now I'll call the roll. Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Dykens.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And the chair says aye. With that out of the way, I will ask Stuart to read, and you're going to have to read those numbers again, the public hearing notice, whatever's in that notice. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Town of Chatham Select Board Public Hearing Notice. Notice is hereby given that the Chatham Select Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, June 10th, 2025, at 5:30 PM in the large meeting room at the Town Hall Annex, 261 George Ryder Road, to consider increases to the current list of Town of Chatham transfer station fees as follows. 1, 9 to 11 bags of garbage, increase from $15 to $20. Commercial garbage increase from $90 a ton to $175 a ton. Commercial single-stream recycling increase from $110 a ton to $150 a ton. Chair upholstered increase from $5 each to $15 each. Demolition, construction debris increase from $190 a ton to $225 a ton. Mattresses and box springs increase from $30 each to $50 each. Sofa increase from $15 each to $30 each. Large truck tires increase from $15 each to $20 each. Fire extinguishers increase from $2 each to $10 each. And to consider establishing a new category of transfer station fees, crib mattresses. Establish this item and charge $10. All interested parties are encouraged to participate in person or remotely via the link in the posted agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So the way we'll conduct this hearing is first to hear from the town staff, Mr. Faley, and then we will entertain some questions or comments from the board to Mr. Faley or others, and then we will hear from members of the public. I also will entertain, if they are interested, the Board of Health, whose chair is here and who has submitted a memorandum, if they wish to speak. Otherwise, I'll read that memorandum, and I intend to read several communications that we have received from the public on this. So, Mr. Faley, it's yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Rob Faley, Director of Public Works. So as presented in my staff report, there is a disparity between disposal costs and customer fees at Chatham's transfer station. Over the past few years, we have seen increases in disposal fees and transportation costs. Chatham's low fees have likely contributed to increased usage and waste volumes, with some waste potentially coming from neighboring towns. Chatham's waste management fee structure needs to be reassessed to be in line with regional norms, to ensure fairness and prevent out-of-town misuse. It's important to note that this presentation does not propose any residential sticker fee increases. In addition to the proposed increase in fees, I've collaborated with the Board of Health, who proposed an attestation for commercial haulers seeking permits to haul solid waste over Chatham's roads, and an additional attestation for each driver dropping off solid waste each time they unload at the transfer station. I prepared a spreadsheet that details individual categories of waste recycling material, what we charge customers to dispose of that material, and what it costs Chatham to dispose of that material. I wanted full transparency to the Select Board, residents of Chatham, and the commercial haulers, so we can all be informed of insight into the proposed rate structure. We have received unanimous support from the Board of Health regarding the rate changes, and since the writing of this report, have also received support from the Finance Committee. How would you like me to proceed? I know you've listed all the categories. but I can give supporting documentation.
Well, let me ask the board how you'd like to proceed. Do you want to just go forward with questions, or do you want Rob to detail
I'd be
some?
happy with questions. I mean, I have three specific items I want to focus on. I don't know what the, everyone else has, but
Okay, well, why don't we go with questions? You go first, Corey.
Sure. One is the commercial garbage increase from 90 to 175. Obviously, pretty much the first thing is you're doubling the price. So we are currently running around 135 for our cost.
That's correct.
So is the projection that from 135 to the 190, is that what we're going to see over this year? Or, I mean, I'm not looking to make money necessarily on the transfer station. I definitely agree we need to increase to cover costs. Why wasn't it considered, say, like going 50% above what we have now and going 145, I guess would be my first question.
So 175 was to match the next lowest town adjacent to us, which is the town of Harwich. So we don't encourage haulers or anybody else from bringing trash to Chatham from other towns. We've heard numerous concerns that people are worried, residents are worried that trash is not just Chatham's trash, so we figured this would kind of level the playing field a little bit. We'd also take some of that money as we, a couple of years ago, I believe, we bought 4 additional trailers. That was on the taxpayers' backs. This would help us repair, replace tires, repair brakes, air brakes, those things of that nature. So our trailers could be funded in-house instead of having to go out to annual town meeting and ask the taxpayers to fund additional equipment at the transfer station.
Okay. Second item is mattresses.
Corey, could I interrupt? Because I have a sub-question on that same. Had you considered staggering the increase instead of, or phasing it in instead of all in one fell swoop?
I had not. Just because we are matching another town, and I don't know what their plans are for increased rates.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Shireen, did you have something on the same point?
I guess purposefully, it is to just level the playing field is what you're saying, you feel the town, that's the biggest issue for us right now, is we're not up there with the rest of the towns. I noticed some of them were as high as $240 a ton.
Right. So we're losing $45 for every ton of trash that's brought into the transfer station.
Thank you.
Jeff, you had a question.
Yeah, I just echo Corey's question and Shireen's comment, to be honest with you. Number one, going from, 90 to $1.75, that's a 94% increase. I would take that in smaller bites. I'm sure we're going to hear from the commercial haulers that, that's quite a sizable increase all at once, kind of so I would suggest that we do a graduated approach to it so the folks know and they can plan that over time they're going to go up, but it won't be tomorrow or, as soon as we pass this. So I would really strongly recommend that, to be honest with you. I think it's a big bite all at once. I understand why. We're losing money and we want to be competitive. We don't want to have, we don't want to have folks from Harwich coming here, whatever. But I think it's unfair to do this all at once. My thought.
So I'll just add, just for the benefit of the public, because that chart is obviously hard to read, but and that chart is also available in the meeting materials if anyone wants to see it online. The town of Harwich charges currently $175 in that category, and the town of Orleans charges $240, and the town of Brewster doesn't accept it. And we're charging $90. But go ahead, Corey, with your next
The
question.
second one I wanted to dig a little bit more into was the mattresses and box springs. I was asked, why should I pay the same for a twin versus like a queen or a king? Do you think about breaking it down by size? I understand mattresses are becoming much more difficult to process. I mean, they're not the ideal. They're hard to manage item. But trying to categorize a twin versus like a larger queen or king.
Yeah, so by law, we have to recycle mattresses. They're not allowed in landfills any longer. We are charged by our vendor a flat rate, whether it's a twin mattress or a king size mattress. It's one flat rate regardless. And I think it has to do with their handling of it after, because they dismantle it and they take the wood and recycle that. They take the metal out, recycle that. All the textiles go to they have different uses for that. And I think it's heavily labor involved.
Okay.
We pay $21.50 per mattress, regardless of size. That's why we added the crib mattress, because we had no other venue. We were charging crib mattresses $30, which we didn't think was fair, so we wanted to establish at least something so crib mattresses can be accepted at a lower rate.
Okay. So maybe,
You done, Corey?
I have one more item, but anything on this one,
Stuart, was yours relative to that point, or did you have a different question?
I had two different questions.
Okay, let Corey do his third
And
question.
then the third question I have is the fire extinguisher. So, 2 to 10, it's not so much about the money, but I'm surprised it didn't go from 2 to 5. Small items like fire extinguishers, when it gets, $10 is a lot for some people, they end up going into trash bags and going into the building. So, which is probably more of a nuisance. So is there any better programs out there to minimize things like that going into the building? Because we had issues with the metal, but I remember chairs and all kinds of junk we put in there in trash bags. We'd end up costing us a tire of a piece of equipment. And ever since you guys put that bin outside with that for the metal, that thing's full all the time. So it kept things out of the building. By putting a small item like a fire extinguisher at $10, some may just pitch it. So is there a better way to keep it from ending up in that scenario? Is there any type of recycling program that we could do it at a lower cost, or is there like a twice-a-year program, kind of like the hazardous waste issues? Is there anything better that we can offer to not have something like this being just trash?
So it does cost us $6 per fire extinguisher to get rid of. I understand, we only see roughly 100 fire extinguishers a year. I just wanted to evaluate our costs. Certainly could be something the town wanted to offer a public service to residents. I mean, I didn't want to, I'm here to give you what it's costing us and what my recommendations are. It's certainly within the board's purview to make other, arrangements.
See about 100 extinguishers a year?
100 a year, yes.
So if, say we went from $2 to $5, it would cost the town $100, which I think we can absorb pretty well, fine. Just a thought. It's my opinion.
Thank you, Corey. Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Rob, thanks for all these stats. It's interesting for those of us not in the know. Do you have, on your rate tracking spreadsheet, have you tracked like a history? How far have we been this far out of sync with the neighboring communities?
I believe when these rates were introduced in 2020, I think we were pretty much, it was there.
In 2020, everybody was relatively in the same.
I didn't go back on the other towns, but I know we were about at cost in 2020.
Okay.
Costs have gone up substantially since then.
And so this has been happening for a little while, Did it come up during this past budget season? Did this issue come up for discussion? Was there a recommendation on this recommendation to resolve it then, or is this more recent?
We didn't formulate any recommendations, but we had conversations with the Finance Committee during budget presentation periods.
Okay.
We knew that this day was coming. We just had to get our hands around it to try to, get all the data and present it.
Okay. And lastly, well, for now, your memo comes from you and goes to the select board and to the town manager. Are these recommendations just yours, or are they the town managers and yours? There's another memo in here. I'm just trying to get my memos straight here. Sometimes they go to, sometimes they come from the town manager and a department head, or maybe Kathy, to the board. And sometimes, like, when we get later into the beach discussion, that's from the department head and the town manager, but this one is not. Is there a rationale for this?
We're in the middle of a new format, and this just squeaked under the wire under the old format. The new format will have all memos from the staff liaison and the town manager to the select board.
The town manager has some
Yeah,
comments.
this was a transition meeting, so prior to this meeting, all of the memos came from the staff person to the select board and town manager, and I thought it's more appropriate for us to provide memos to, and staff reports to the select board and through me, and for me to present it as it is my recommendation.
Okay.
So, yes,
Fair.
I
So
agree
that's
with
kind of in the works. Yeah. And,
So next meeting, you'll see it more consistent.
okay. And so for these recommendations, is this coming from you, or is this the two of you, or is this a I mean, I'm assuming it's a collaborative
I'm
effort.
standing by it, so I wrote it, so it's whether Jill wants to stand by
Yeah, and I
it.
reviewed it too. So we were both at the finance committee meetings and through our budget process with the finance director, we were looking at the cost of tipping fees for Kavana, which is no longer Kavana, and our recycling rates. So I'm very supportive of this, but also certainly welcome the board and the public's comments on it.
So you're endorsing this as your recommendation also, is that
Sure.
a fair statement?
Yeah.
Yes.
And Mr.
Thank
Chair, we were coming off of a 10-year contract with Reworld, and we were renegotiating that contract January of this year. So we didn't know where we were going to land. So we kind of paused it a little bit just to make sure we were on level ground.
Okay. Anyone else on the board have any questions? So I think at this point, I'm going to ask the Chair of the Board of Health, did you want to speak, Dr. Hanson, or do you want me to just read your letter? And I know Judy's here as well. I think you can read all that. Okay. Why don't I do that, and then if people have any questions about it, they can ask you to come to the podium. So this is a letter dated June 3rd, a memorandum to me as chair, from Noble Hanson, Chairman, Board of Health. The Board of Health has been reviewing the issue of commercial refuse haulers using the Chatham Transfer Station, TS. The board has identified several concerns, including 1, odor complaints, 2, the refusal of neighboring communities to accept commercial waste, 3, the inability of the TS to verify the town of origin for incoming loads. To address these issues, the Board of Health recommends increasing the fees for commercial and construction/demolition debris to match those of surrounding towns. Brewster, for example, does not accept commercial hauler waste, and Harwich charges double our fee for commercial waste. Chatham's rates do not cover the costs of final hauling and disposal. Fee increases will eliminate the incentive for outside waste to be brought to Chatham. The Health Department is committed to strengthening the commercial hauler's permit application process. Applicants will be required to sign an affidavit affirming that they will transport only waste from Chatham to our facility and will not mix it with waste from other towns. We will also emphasize penalties for noncompliance. Furthermore, the Board of Health solid waste regulations will be updated to require contractors to check in at the gate and confirm that their load originates from Chatham. We have discussed these issues with Rob Faley and fully support his efforts to update the fees and rules at the transfer station. We understand that he will be presenting his proposal to the Select Board on June 10. Having reviewed his recommendations, we stand behind them. Thank you for your attention to this matter. With that, I'm going to open the hearing to public. Anyone wishes to speak, I would ask them to come forward to the podium, identify yourself, and please address your comments to the board. So. And then we will also take comments from people online, and then I will read letters that came in. Thank you.
All right, I'm Graham Milley, co-owner of Milley Trucking. We've been Chatham's Disposal Company since 1928. We're almost at our 100-year anniversary. I would really like to make it there. I'm also the president of Monomoy Community Services, and I'm the director for the Chamber of Commerce. Before I get into kind of what I wrote here, there seems to be a lot of concern about outside commercial haulers bringing trash here. And I'm kind of disappointed that there's so much misinformation and confusion about that, because every other hauler besides Nickerson and I use very large trucks, and they're dumping off Cape because they're regional. We are the only two haulers that focus on such a small area on Cape. There are a couple other little guys, they're not dumping in Chatham. And honestly, I'm sure you have the statistics on our tonnage, their tonnage, and what the actual tonnage is from other mystery haulers. And I would be willing to bet it's very small. So I'd be interested in seeing that. All right. So I'd like to start off by saying you're electing to kill two Chatham businesses tonight. It's not an exaggeration, but rather a realization. Any substantial increase in the MSW pricing will effectively end our two long-time Chatham businesses. Millie and Nickerson, both multi-generational companies who have literally helped build the Chatham transfer station, will now be destroyed of it. You've given us 2 weeks' notice, sent via a single email, from an email address we've never corresponded with. We've never spoken with Rob. I've never met Rob. He's never introduced himself. We've never received a phone call or email from Rob. The first week Tom Temple had the job, he was in my office, introducing himself, familiarizing himself with our business and the town he just started to serve. While we didn't always see eye to eye, Tom remained in constant contact with us. Rob has corresponded with us once, this email. An email which was also sent to our regional corporate competitors, especially one based in Falmouth. For what reason, I'm unsure. It painted a target on our backs, an invite to come poach our customers, because inevitably our rates will increase if town disposal fees are increasing. Surely there was no reason to notify them of your rates when they use off-Cape transfer stations for half the price. How am I supposed to tell local business owners as they open their doors for summer that the disposal quote I gave them was dramatically incorrect and their trash bill will be going up 95%? I spoke with Dave Lusher, the transfer station foreman, twice at the beginning of this year, asking about potential price increases. He assured me none is coming. At current MSW pricing, our two local Chatham-based companies are able to compete with regional trash haulers, just barely. They keep costs down by using automated trucks with 3 times the capacity of ours, and they dump them off Cape, where disposal fees can be as low as $70 per ton. We use the smaller trucks, we pay higher salaries to local employees, and we offer better service. All things that benefit our community. Things that make Chatham special that you guys have probably never realized. You'll never see a gigantic truck carrying 20 tons driving down Main Street all times of the day, because our trucks are small and we're out of downtown by 10 a.m. An out-of-town corporate hauler from Plymouth or Falmouth, guess where their last stops of the day are? Chatham. You'll never see a Millie Nickerson dumpster overflowing, trash spilling on the ground, because we check our dumpsters daily and we speak with our customers daily. A corporate out-of-town hauler, they check those dumpsters once a week, maybe, and their customers will wait 20 minutes on the phone if they have an issue. The section of downtown from the Rotary all the way to Carmine's, every single business owner was joined together by Millie Trucking. They utilize a shared and hidden trash compactor, eliminating over 10 dumpsters from the parking lot behind the Orpheum Theater. With us gone, you'll be welcoming 10 new dumpsters to that parking lot from varying corporate haulers, with 10 lost parking spaces and surely trash and debris in the lot. The Oyster, it shares a bandstand parking lot and it uses a tiny dumpster. We empty it 7 days a week. What will your answer for the Oyster be when they come in here seeking 3 to 4 more parking spots to fit a large commercial dumpster and a corporate-sized trash truck in that parking lot? I have an employee year-round on salary, and he drives our summer route, something that doesn't exist in the off-season. We keep him busy in the off-season with repairs and other odd jobs, and we keep him on salary despite the lack of work because he's valuable to the team, and that's what it takes to retain employees on Cape. We also provide housing assistance for him, and his daughter attends Chatham Elementary. If we walk out of here today with a price increase, he inevitably will be the first person I have to lay off. It's a harsh reality, but it's not an exaggeration. He will leave Chatham, and his daughter will leave the Monomoy school system. While we are speaking of the schools, I have to tell them, when I call, what are they going to say when I call them tomorrow and tell them the price I gave them at the beginning of the year was wrong, and they'll now see a 95% increase in their monthly costs. In addition to that, we'll no longer afford donations to the athletic fund or the after prom committee. Every piece of paper in this room tonight, after this meeting, will go into a Millie Trucking recycling bin, a recycling bin that will now cost the town more when we pick it up, a cost the town will ultimately decide is too much. The Cape Cod Chronicle recycles every unsold newspaper with us, and I'll have to call them tomorrow and explain that now it'll cost double. What will their decision be And what will the following week's newspaper articles say? Now, we can sit here and call this price increase just the cost of doing business, but the fact is, no business can ever expect close to a 100% increase in cost. It's pure insanity. Going from $90 to $175, that'll cost me $100,000 just this summer alone. $100,000 in less than 2 months, and nobody can budget for that. If the town truly has reason to justify this cost increase, more things need to be looked at and more questions need to be asked. Simply laying this insane cost on our backs is not the answer. Questions need to be asked like, is the residential sticker going to double today as well? It only seems reasonable. It's the same residential trash, whether I bring it in or they do. Questions need to be asked like, who is negotiating these contracts with CMAS and Covanta, and why did negotiations go so poorly? Questions need to be asked like the new transfer station with an expected cost of $8 million, $3 million over budget. Are we now bearing the brunt of that? Are we expected to carry that burden? And apparently we are, where it was just admitted that we are expected to pay for these new trailers that were purchased. Questions need to be asked. Why does Chatham outsource the hauling of those trailers to subcontractors? And what is the cost associated with that? Every other town hauls their own trailers. Questions need to be asked. Are you comfortable forcing locals who strive to keep their business local to now use a corporate hauling business? And furthermore, any local who engages in business with the town should take notes and witness how quickly this has attempted to happen. Witness how quickly the tables were turned on two companies that have spent their lifetime keeping this town's waste stream running efficiently, effectively, and out of sight.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions and maybe some board members, so.
Sure.
I just wanted to ask, I think I've asked this in the past when
Sure.
the haulers have been here. How many employees does Millie have?
So I have three full-time employees, 2 drivers and 1 bookkeeper.
Okay. One of the ideas behind the proposal is to disincentivize the deposit of non-Chatham trash
Yep.
at the transfer station. Does your company do that?
So any residential or commercial trash that is outside of town is directly related to Chatham in some way. I'll give you an example. We service the Chatham Corner store, and we also handle their store in Orleans. Some of the staff for the Cape Cod Chronicle, we service the Cape Cod Chronicle in Chatham. Some of them have houses in Harwich. If I had to put a number on a percentage of our customer base that was out of town, it would be less than 5%.
Okay. And my last question is, you've heard the Public Works Director talk about the disparity in the rates between us and the other towns.
Yep.
And how much money we are losing on the whole operation. Do you think, and maybe this is an unfair question, do you think your company could absorb some increase, but a lesser amount of increase and phased in over time? I don't know what that would be. I'm just conceptually asking the question.
Currently, no. Any MSW, I'll give you another example. So my restaurants, we say we empty a dumpster for $100, which it basically is. That dumpster weighs approximately 1 ton. So I am making $10 when I empty that dumpster. So if we go out of here with any increase, basically beyond $100, I will lose I'll lose every single restaurant by the end of the week, and I will lose every single commercial account by the end of the summer.
I just thought of a fourth question, based on what you said. Are your charges or rates to your commercial customers set for this summer? Is that?
Correct, and that was my intentions when checking with Dave this winter, because we knew the Covanta contract was coming up.
Okay.
We knew there might be something, I mean, everyone talks, I mean, I talk with several off-Cape haulers, and
Okay.
everyone knows when the contracts are coming up, they know when things are being negotiated, everyone knows everyone else's prices.
Do Millie and Nickerson basically have 99% of the business that's going, of trash that's going into the Chatham transfer station?
Yeah, because we're the only two small haulers to really exist. Using Harwich and Brewster as an example of commercial trash is kind of a moot point because they don't have commercial haulers. Brewster, you get regional haulers, and you get regional haulers everywhere else in Cape, and they're hauling it off Cape. And that's when you see the giant trucks on the highway, and they're carrying 20, 30 tons, and they're dumping off Cape. They're going right to Covanta or elsewhere. So they're not wasting their time dumping here.
If I see one of your competitors, not Nickerson, but one of these other trucks on the street, or a dumpster on somebody's property, whether it's commercial or private, that trash is going outside of Chatham.
For sure, yeah.
Okay, all right. Any questions from the board to Mr. Millie?
Yeah, I just want to be real clear, so if I see the coffin truck or the Nauset disposal truck, they're going out of Chatham. They're not-
Correct.
They're not coming into our transfer station.
Correct. Nauset is, they're based out of Plymouth now, as far as I know. They're dumping exclusively at Covanta. As for Coffin, he does not dump in Chatham, as far as I know. And speaking to the email that was sent to Cavosa, I have no idea why on earth they were emailed, because, like I said, it painted a target on our back, come on down here and poach our customers. They do business in town, but they would never dump in Chatham. They're based in Falmouth.
It's probably because they were licensed. Is that the reason why they were notified? I think everybody that had a license
Okay.
was notified.
Yes.
Okay.
Licensed by the Board of Health.
Okay.
Graham, I thought you spoke eloquently, and you made a lot of great points. I appreciate that. But if we were to try to just cover our costs, so $107.25, whatever is what we're quoted.
Yep.
And you would go from 90 to 107, if you will.
Yep.
Could you not pass some piece of that off to your current commercial customers? And
I mean-
saying, this is this is conjecture, but saying that, yeah, in fact, the town's not covering its costs, and so we're going to pass these costs on to you. Is that not an avenue?
It's an avenue, but it's just, like I said, I mean, a restaurant who has a dumpster emptied 3 times a week, very quickly, even just a $10 or $20 increase to them becomes substantial over the course of a year. And they look at their trash bill and go, oh, I spent an extra 10 grand this year. I'm going to choose a corporate hauler. So, I mean, yes, it's an avenue, but I mean, like I said, any sort of increase, especially after establishing rates for this summer, is either going to significantly hurt my bottom line. I'll be working at a deficit, or I will lose customers.
Yeah.
Would that be cushioned if that level of increase were deferred to next season? Would that give you an opportunity to plan, or did you still have an issue because you're going to lose
No,
money?
I mean, yeah, certainly if there's 2 outcomes, I mean, deferred is better than tomorrow.
What I'm hearing you suggest, though, is that even if you did it a year from now, I don't want to put words in your mouth, some of these customers would go elsewhere because they're going to be paying.
I do believe so, but also, I mean, a year definitely gives me time to establish myself, talk with customers, and essentially, work on it. But 175 is out of the question. If he's 107 within a year's time is more manageable for sure.
Okay.
Well, that's also assuming that our costs, the town's costs don't go up as well.
Yes,
There could
yeah.
be another,
Yep.
staggered step, if you will.
Yep.
But I agree with you 100%. When I saw the numbers, 94% increase out of the blue, no. We
Yeah.
cannot do that. We cannot do that.
And so informal, an
K-A-D,
email.
yeah, K-A-D.
Like, why were we not approached in person?
That's an issue as well.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. But anyway, I think there's an approach that there's a compromise here that we can get to some point where we're covering our costs are close there too.
Yep.
You guys get a heads up that it's not happening all at once, and you can anticipate, you can run your business.
Yes,
Employ people.
yes.
We're also not required to take a vote tonight. Mr. Metters.
And thank you.
Just a couple observations. One thing, you did speak very well, eloquently, and I very much appreciate the tone and the information you provided to the board. I do appreciate that very much. I think we need to do a little more communication improvement with the haulers, town, because if this is something that was relatively dropped on you in a shorter window with one email, I think we can improve on that certainly.
Well, thank you.
Because I think it's a better process.
Yep.
And I do know, for someone who grew up in this town, I think a lot of people, I know that there will be people that leave, but there are also people that with Nickerson and Millie, they're gonna stay with you because of the service you guys provide. You guys have been around for generations, for years, literally generations. And then, like you mentioned, downtown, you consolidate certain elements that, other bike companies would unlikely do. So
Correct, yes.
you collectively, between the two of you guys provide services for the community that would outweigh some of the costs. So don't, undersell yourself, either of you guys.
Well, thank you.
Because there's a lot of support for both your families, so.
Shireen, did you have something?
Yeah, I mean, I weigh this pretty heavy because this is, this is about things that, a bigger picture in the community, obviously. Small business versus corporatization is like something I've fought against all my life, and understanding that that local aspect is really important to community and community sustainability. I also weigh the idea that we can't just run in deficit in the town. That's not responsibility. So if we can find a compromise, or we can have a look at this and see what, there's other factors to, there's cost-benefit factors here that need to be taken into consideration, I believe. And we, as a, if we were talking about, community and sustainability and things that are important to keeping small businesses alive in the town of Chatham, then we'd be thinking of a factor that we would add into, I'm not talking about subsidizing, that kind of thing, but there is a factor. And we do have an economic development committee that should be maybe brought into the loop to consider what those factors look like. A great place to have this argument, Graham, that you've just eloquently told us, and what the challenges are as a small trash hauler in this community. So I think we need to find a deferral, a good point where we cannot lose money, a more open conversation with the trash community. It's two small companies, but still, if we want to keep that sort of quality of the town. Thanks.
Thank you. Graham, unless you have anything more to say, thank you
No,
very
no,
much.
but I know Ben would
Okay.
like to speak as well, so.
Mr. Nickerson, thank you.
Hello, how you doing? My name is Ben Nickerson, alongside is my brother, my father Benji. Chris and I will be the third generation to operate Benjamin T. Nickerson. We've been based out of Chatham since 1969 when our grandfather started, and the Chatham Transfer Station is our main disposal hub. We understand the commercial fees need to be raised. The town can't be operating at a consistent deficit. The fact the fees are going up isn't the problem. It's the doubling of price from one month to the next that's our biggest issue. The last increase was in 2020. There should have been a gradual increase over the last 5 years instead of drastically increasing with barely a month's notice, and not any month, the month prior to our busiest season. We sent out letters the last billing cycle, June 1st, warning people of the price increase to come. Our secretary, Caitlin, takes enough calls as is during the summer. She's going to be overloaded with questions from customers on why the price we've been providing has increased so significantly in such a short period of time. Being informed of this 2 weeks before summer starts is unacceptable. Graham made a lot of good points, specifically about the corporate companies that could potentially service town and how different their operations could play out day to day. Large companies start early, 2 or 3 in the morning. We've taken over a few accounts servicing Chatham businesses too early. Their equipment is loud. It was causing neighbors disruptions, so they turned to us. We've also had issues of companies going in too late. No one wants garbage trucks driving downtown during lunchtime in 80-degree weather. We don't want examples like these to become a regular occurrence in town. Large companies aren't able to accommodate the small town needs because they're servicing the entire Cape and beyond. They'll never care about Chatham the way Nickerson and Millie do. The fact one of these companies was included in the email that was sent out notifying regulars of the changes to come which also included all the old and new pricing, was careless and by far the most disappointing part. I've never seen the Falmouth company that Graham referenced, Cavosa, use the Chatham transfer station. They shouldn't have been included, and now they have all the price points, making it easier for them to undercut us. I could keep going on, but to Graham's point, there's plenty of unseen factors that will change the town's waste removal landscape if we lose accounts. In the end, the main point I'm trying to get across is we deserve a grace period where the fee is slightly increased, 110 to 120. I heard him throw out the 135 number, anything but 175, enough to cover cost of operations for the town and give us some time to properly adjust our prices on our end. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask the same question, and I know I've asked this of Nickerson before. How many employees do you have?
So my brother and I are out on the truck daily. We have 2 other drivers that are full-time, and then we have a full-time secretary, Caitlin.
Thank you. You already sort of anticipated what I was going to ask and what I asked Mr. Milley about the possibility of a phased-in, lesser increase.
Yeah, that would be ideal. I mean, just the doubling up from 1 month to the next it's a lot.
Sure.
And we sent out summer letters in March to all of our seasonal customers. We let them know what the price increase was going to be, which this year was going to be 50 cents, and it's going to be a lot more than that now.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? Stuart?
This may be for Jill or Rob, but it's kind of a reflection of something Mr. Milley brought up. What is, being new, what's the town's policy on subsidizing some of these functions that the town conducts? I'm harking back to my old days, and I'm trying to reckon with, is the goal for the town to not subsidize and that the transfer station is supposed to run itself on the fees? Is that the goal?
The goal is to cover the cost, so it's the sticker prices for those who choose to transport their own waste to the transfer station, and any hauler that's using it. So that's our goal. Tonight's discussion is to provide the reality of what it costs the town. It's certainly a policy discussion with the board if you want to subsidize operations or not. So this was, and I apologize that you didn't receive advance notice or as advance notice with a personal note. We've been looking at the fees, but felt that we need to start the discussion. And when we started the discussion 5 years ago and the fees were increased, the board was just as sensitive as what I'm anticipating tonight. And so it was something that could be reasonable and that the businesses can absorb. So we're not looking to make a profit, but there's more than just depositing waste at the transfer station. There's, as we talked about, the operating costs, the staffing costs, and that it offsets the tax rate eventually so that we can do our cost improvements without having, do our improvements without having to cost the taxpayers additional funds.
So although it's maybe not a policy, the goal is to cover the costs with the fees. And the costs are the operational costs, or are they the operational costs and the capital improvements, or is it just?
Yeah, I can have Rob come up if you would mind, Rob. Thanks.
So all the capital costs have historically been, in front of the taxpayers at town meeting. This is just to cover the operational costs internally within the transfer station.
Okay.
Even the trailers were an annual town meeting, I believe, agenda item or an article.
Right. And so the other communities that you've surveyed here, is their goal also to cover their operational costs, or do they subsidize it as well on the tax rate?
That I don't know. I haven't gotten that deep into discussions with them.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I'm going to inject a comment because you raise an interesting point about subsidization. We subsidize a hell of a lot of things in this town. We spend $400,000 a year to dredge the harbor. We spend millions of dollars on waterfront infrastructure because we want to support our fishing industry. And we do similar things in other venues as well. So I think that's something we should keep in mind as well. You know, if we think there's a societal or a community benefit, and I'm not arguing with you, Stuart, you raised the point, then it's something we need to factor in.
These costs, excuse me, Dean,
Yeah.
but these costs, and I'm sorry if it's right in front of me, but are they proposed to go into effect July 1, Jill, or are they, did I miss that? Because somebody said in a month, but is that?
The column is labeled 7/1/25, but that's something that the board would
Okay.
give us direction on.
Thank you.
I think we have the liberty to do whatever we want with that. Okay. Yeah, what they propose.
proposal is,
Yeah.
do we have a policy that guides?
Okay, thank you.
Just
Mr.
one more
Nickerson,
thing.
yeah.
The price increase only affecting the commercial accounts without increasing the residential sticker prices also needs to be addressed by next renewal season. We shouldn't be the only ones shouldering the price increase. You know, it's understandable now that they've already been being sold, you know, changing the price now. It's understandable that it won't happen, but in the future, that definitely needs to be addressed as well.
Thank you. No other questions? Okay, thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Mr. Holligan? Thank you, Mr. Nickerson.
Yes, John Holgren from South Chatham. Obviously, you know, my points are minor compared to the previous two speakers. Just following up on something that Mr. Metter said and so on regarding the mattresses and the fire extinguishers. The one number that I thought I heard but I wasn't sure of was, if Rob could provide me, was what was the actual new cost for the mattress recycling?
Our cost for mattresses is $21.50 each
Okay.
to dispose of.
Right. So when I was, Mr. Metters presented something that sort of along the lines that I was under the impression that, you know, we had to sort of do it based upon a weight and a volume type situation. So I was still thinking that of having a staggered type of fee, simply because people that maybe have twin mattresses tend to probably be the lower economic folks. You know, if you can buy a mattress, a new twin mattress for $150, and you have to spend $50 to get rid of the other one if you wanted to, you know, not have it delivered and so on and have them pick it up, let's say the old one. That seems more kind of out of proportion there. So that's why I was saying that, you know, if you kept it and sort of staggered it, maybe 30, because the other thing is, a twin mattresses in terms of size, twin is, let's say, 1.0, double is 1.5, queen is 1.75, and king is 2. So essentially, because I don't have kings or queens in my cottages because they wouldn't fit, you know. So, but basically, a king mattress always has 2 twin springs underneath it because you just can't, you know, you have to do it that way. So if you were to do 30, 40, 50, and 60, you know, you would definitely, even on the 30, you would still cover your cost. I think the bulk of your mattresses that might be potentially coming in tend to be the larger one. I don't, you know, apparently there's no statistics, but, you know, that would be my guess would be that, you know, there might be the larger ones. So you would still essentially get your net effect of an average maybe of 45, 50, you know, if you did that sort of blend. And I think that would be a way to sort of, you know, make it good for the people. Because in my case, in my cottages at the moment, I have 17 twins and 4 doubles. So the bulk of my stuff would be twins. Now, obviously, I don't need to dispose of any at the moment, but, you know, it was simply just something to definitely, I think that point of having a staggered would help everybody and still cover our cost. In terms of the fire extinguishers, I like the idea of changing it maybe to 5 because I've got 6 extinguishers, so if I have to get, in order to get rid of them every few years, I have to get new ones. You know, now they're only good for like 7 years, I have to buy new ones, so my cost would go then from 12 to, you know, to 30 instead of to 60. So I think that makes it more, we lose a $1 extinguisher, but I think that's tolerable, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anybody else? Mr. Phillips?
All right, Brian Phillips, 374 Orleans Road. I guess, my first question is, could you make the out-of-town haulers pay more money or something along those lines? Apparently, they don't really.
Well, even allowing for that, I did ask the question through the town manager of town council. He hasn't given us, whether you could do that. Because someone had raised that point in a letter to us. The town council hasn't given us a final response. His initial communication to us was that he was skeptical you could legally do it. But we don't have a final on that.
I guess another point I have is that, I mean, these guys right here, they provide a great service to the town. Hauling around trash is not a fun job, and they do a very good job at it. And these are the people that are important in this town, and to squeeze them is ridiculous. And anyone that would endorse raising these fees like that to squeeze them, I think, is wrong. And again, at one of our debates, when I said 3 nice things about the select board, it was, to be that you guys are, I like the senior center, and that you guys are financially responsible, and that you guys answer my phone calls. And one thing that I lose sleep over is that we're spending $3 million on redoing this dump. So I just wish you guys could explain to me why we're spending money on that and not like the roof at the school, and we're doing things like squeezing, the local business owners.
We haven't squeezed anybody yet, Brian.
Right, okay, potentially. I'm sorry, Mr.
Dykens. We've yet to finish our considerations, and you know where I stand. I've already articulated my position. 94% increase is crazy, but graduated, getting to our cost somehow is probably palatable.
As far as the capital projects,
Yeah,
that's
but
always,
to me, that's like a.
I understand, and
Mr.
others
Smith
have,
goes to Washington, where I just don't understand why that is happening.
others have made the same point, but it's a question of trying to prioritize which, they all need to be done. The issue of the transfer station facility has been around for a long time. You've just talked to the neighbors and so forth. So we made the decision to put that forward. If there were different members of on this board, maybe they might have gone a different way. So, we made the call.
Now,
We
is
can be
everyone
criticized for
signed
it.
off on that? Is that
Pardon
definitely?
me?
Is everyone signed off on that? Is that already going through?
Town meeting approved it.
Yeah, it approved it, so.
So there's no way, well, there's the other thing is.
Well, we could stop it, but I'm not prepared to
could.
stop it.
You're not going to?
I'm not going to stop it because I think it was the right thing to do.
Okay, well, I remember when we were at the Democratic meeting, Mr. Dykens said it was, Stewart was busting them up over the rotaries, and they didn't pass, and.
A little off topic.
We're off topic,
Yeah,
Mr. Chair.
I think we are, in fairness. This is a public hearing on the topic,
Hearing about
transfer station fees. We can talk some other time, Brian, about
All right.
those issues.
I
Okay,
guess you guys know where I stand against the Dyke.
all right. Thank you. Any other comments from the public in the room? Any online? I don't see any, so I'm going to read. I don't have as many as I had 2 weeks ago, so this will take a much shorter time. I'm sorry. Yes, sir. I'd be happy to do that, yes. And I'll give that back to you after I'm done. Thank you. So the first communication, these are emails, we received from Elaine Gibbs. She sent a long email relative to several topics tonight, but with respect to this public hearing, she has this section that I'll read. Public hearing, transfer station rate increases. I am in agreement that commercial haulers' rates need to be increased. We cannot continue to encourage other towns to send their garbage and construction material to Chatham because it's cheaper than hauling it off Cape themselves. What's missing is a new policy restriction to only accept garbage and construction material from Chatham residents, with enforcement and fines to the hauler if from other towns. Chatham residents are already paying $8 million to renovate the transfer station, not Orleans, Brewster, Harwich, Eastham, or Wellfleet. There should be no rate increases on items for Chatham residents. It's just another tax. Specifically, fire extinguishers from $2 to $10. I thought I was misreading this. Disposal should be free with drop-off at the Chatham Fire Department. Most homes have numerous extinguishers. Does Chatham want to have expired or malfunctioning extinguishers in houses so the fire can spread, or the house burned down when it doesn't work? And if they explode from corrosion, or are they disposed of in a garbage bag instead? The shrapnel and toxins are potentially extremely dangerous. New category to include crib mattresses. This certainly doesn't send a quote, "we're a family-friendly town" message. We should not want babies sleeping on moldy or damaged mattresses. Whoever comes up with these ideas really needs to look at the optics and common sense, not seeing what sticks or gets by the public. The next is a communication from Meg McCarthy and Craig Capel, dated June 10th. Elaine's was also June 10th. Dear Select Board, I am writing in support of a grace period for the increase in transfer station fees that have been proposed. It is my understanding that the costs for disposal for companies that service homeowners will almost double. Companies that serve us are doing the best job they can to hold down the increases. The question is, why is this increase happening all at once? Why weren't there increases over a period of time? Did we miss this item in the budget process or choose not to increase the fees, resulting in doubling the fees today? The homeowners and companies should not suffer the consequences of this oversight. Please implement a phased-in approach / grace period for this increase. Thank you. Next is a communication dated June 5th from David and Linda McElroy. Dear members of the Select Board, we encourage you to vote against the proposed increases in the Town of Chatham transfer station fees for Chatham-based haulers, but not for haulers not based in Chatham, for the following reasons. 1, at town meeting, there was sentiment against haulers from outside Chatham taking advantage of the accessibility and pricing of the Chatham transfer station. But we should always encourage our local Chatham businesses by keeping their cost of doing business stable and as low as possible. 2, the proposed increases are not uniform. The increase for commercial garbage is 94%, whereas the increase for demolition and construction debris is only 18%. 3, these increased fees will be passed on to the customers of trash haulers, and many of these customers are Chatham senior citizens or disabled persons who are physically unable to use the transfer station. Many of these year-round customers are living on restricted income and will be severely impacted by these proposed increases. 4, Chatham residents are already paying for the expensive improvements to the transfer station which were passed at the recent town meeting. There was no mention of these proposed increases at the town meeting before the vote was taken. Chatham residents will end up paying for these transfer station improvements and for the increased price for pickup. We are year-round residents and taxpayers of Chatham. We hope you will consider these points and vote against the proposed increases. The increases should be equal across the board and give favor to Chatham-based businesses. Thank you for your consideration. Then there is an email dated June 8th from Stephen Daniel. On behalf of the entire Finance Committee, I am writing to applaud the proposed action to increase fees at the transfer station. It is a topic we have raised over the past couple of years and are wholly supportive of the initiative. Fingers crossed, Stephen Daniel. Then there is an email from Mr. Frank Messina dated today. Mr. Nicastro and fellow Select Board members, the 100% increase in fees will have a significant impact on the elderly and citizens who cannot use the dump or recycling center. We started during COVID, and due to illnesses are using a commercial service. Please seriously consider your decisions and impact on the senior community. Thanks, Frank Messina. And this is the letter that you just handed to me. It's also from Meg McCarthy and Craig Capel, but I'll read it. Dear Select Board, it's the same letter. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. These letters will become part of the record of this hearing. So if there's no more, if there are no more comments from the public, and I don't see any either online or nothing on the phone or in person, so I'll bring it back to the board for conversation. I'll just point out that earlier in the conversation, Shireen suggested, I think, possibly involving the Economic Development Committee in this. Maybe that's something the board might want to consider. I can't personally see imposing these fees at this level at this time. So I'm not prepared to vote to accept this recommendation as is. I'm not sure we should impose any new fee for this upcoming season for anything, but that's where I'm going. Corey Metters.
No, I'm in agreement. I would suggest we put a pause on this, and as a couple of the previous speakers mentioned, we got to figure out how to share this cost between both private haulers and the normal stickers and figure out what is the most equitable way of handling every element of the fee structure. Because again, we can nitpick some of these, $5 here, $10 here. The goal is to cover our operating costs, I believe, at the Stewart's kind of earlier questions. I think we need to keep that in line, and maybe we bring in the EDC, because we want to figure out, we're not running the transfer station as a profit maker, but we don't want to be losing money. But we also got to figure out, there's certain elements of the community that we, have maybe a hard dollar amount, but that are beneficial to the community as a whole that we can subsidize a little bit. So I'm ready to hit pause straight down the line on this, and then we, bring it back obviously a little bit down the road. But at the moment tonight, I'm not inclined to act at all.
Shireen, you were next.
I think, I agree with Corey, but I'm not inclined to put it on pause per se. I think we should come out of this meeting with a plan, an action plan that includes a deeper dive with EDC, if that's where we are, a little more conversation with the hauler community, engaging them in the process as much as they want to, and, talk about their businesses and all that. Any kind of feedback is helpful, but does become public comment. I also think that we should have, I think the Board of Health is already looking at, and what Ms. Gibbs had written in her letter was a policy around other towns' haulers, which, though it doesn't sound like they're actually participating in activity at our transfer station, according to the industry in town. But maybe we have a more of a policy that's set forth to discourage any dumping in our.
She has talked about that in the past and before this board, and Ms. Gibbs, and she's talked about also, I assume, perhaps any hauler depositing non-Chatham trash at the facility, but we heard from Mr. Milley that it's pretty minimal, the amount that they're collecting and depositing. Stuart, I think you were next, and then Jeff.
Sure. Raising fees is never a popular discussion, but it's 2.5 weeks before the proposal would go into effect, and I think we need a lot more discussion and a lot more notice, and I think we need some policy discussions on what we're expecting the fees to accomplish. Maybe the Finance Committee can weigh in on that specifically. So I'm not ready to support any fee increases until we can accomplish some more work.
Jeff?
Yeah, I just think we need to craft what next steps are or aren't. So what are the next steps? And I would like to make this statement, and haulers and folks that work at the transfer station, correct me, but there's local folklore here about garbage being deposited from Chatham that's collected outside the town. And what I heard tonight is that's not happening. So someone tell me that's not happening, because I think it's time to dispel the notion that we're using, the folks are using our transfer station at a cut rate, and we're getting, someone tell me, because I've heard this over and over and over. Does Coffin come in here? Does Cabosa come in here? Does the NASA come in here and dump trash from outside Chatham? No. So what's the local folklore? We have to dispel it, because it's just no good. It just goes on and on.
On that point, I did ask the question of Mr. Milley. Can I ask Mr. Nickerson, would you go to the mic? Could you answer that same question? Does your company deposit non-Chatham trash, and if so, what's the percentage?
So it was very similar to Graham. We're easily under 5%.
Okay.
And most of the people we pick up out of town originally grew up here, have strong affiliations with Chatham, but they just can't. They've been priced out of Chatham. But without a doubt, under 5%.
Am I fair? I don't want to ask a leading question, but am I fair in suggesting that it would be somewhat impractical to separate it out?
It would be pretty tough.
Yeah,
It would be pretty tough, yeah.
okay. All right. I was watching the Karen Reed case today.
I'm making the statement that we need to dispel that rumor. That's local folklore, that we're subsidizing garbage because of our low rates that come from outside Chatham. Let's put that to bed. Let's not go down there anymore, okay?
You have to come to the mic. Yeah. Yeah, if he has his hand up.
The only other commercial hauler I've ever seen in there is Trash Butlers, and they're a very small, older gentleman and woman. It's just those two. They have a 1-ton dump truck, and they're the only ones I've ever seen in there. They're based out of Harwich, but the amount they bring in is minuscule.
Stuart? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have something?
Yes, I did. If you guys are, I hate to get into the weeds, but here we are. If you guys have customers down on, by the country store or Church Street, and they're in Harwich, I assume you're picking that trash up, and then you do your route, comes through Chatham, and then you go to the dump.
It all gets mixed in, yeah.
Yeah, it all gets mixed in, but it's less than 5%,
Less
let's
than
say.
5% easy.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Mr. Millie, did you have something you wanted to add? And then we'll call Rob Feely. I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'll be quick here. It'd be very obvious if other haulers were benefiting from your low prices because they'd be here arguing as well. It's as plain as that. I mean, we're the only two here because we're the only two who dump in Chatham.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Rob Feely, were you done? Okay. You can.
I just wanted to add that the only other commercial hauler that we have an account with that does dump a small amount is Barrows, and they're based out of Harwich, but they have some commercial customers in Chatham. But it's typically Millie Nickerson or the bulk, and then Barrows has very small amount weekly, maybe 5 ton or so.
And some of that could be non-Chatham trash, perhaps?
I believe they just try to dump it as they're leaving town, because most of their customers are not in Chatham.
I point out that the Board of Health is looking at regulations to, I would point out that the Board of Health is looking at regulations to kind of attest, or assure that the non-Chatham trash comes in, doesn't come in. Is that what's going on? Dr. Hanson and then Mr. Miller.
Noble Hanson. Yeah, we're looking at, in the trash hauler's application form, a little attestation section which says that they're only dumping Chatham trash in Chatham, and that they're actually, one of them was that they're not mixing trash, and that there would be some penalties if it was learned that they were. And then the Board of Health writes the trash regulations. Who knew? We don't run the dump. But part of that would be a change where the driver, when they log in, which now is just weighing, the driver would get out and sign a form in the little house there that load is only from Chatham.
It does sound, though, like from what we've heard tonight, that may not be possible because to make that attestation, because some of the trash, however minimal.
Well, that's what we're learning tonight. That
Yeah, you may have to,
so it gets
you may have to
percentage
adjust,
or how much is
you may have to
is
adjust
too
that.
much or not.
Yeah, but that's something that, your regulations are subject to public hearing.
Yes, that's a future thing. The attestation form on the application, I believe the health department just puts together that application, and that
Yeah.
can be done.
Well, you're going to have to review it in light of the comments tonight, I think.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
I didn't mean to say.
Well, it's just something to think about because.
may have to modify
It's kind of it's an open-ended, if you say you don't have to certify, they say 5% or whatever, it's just open, so we'd have to think about that.
You'll have to modify it or consider modifying it.
Yeah.
In fairness. Did you have something else, Graham? And then Jeff Dykens, I think, has more.
There should just be full transparency when every time Rob brings up Barrows Disposal, because the town does contract them to haul demo out of Chatham. S&J and Barrows are the same company, so the town does pay Barrows every time a demo load leaves Chatham. Chatham does not haul demo themselves, just like they do not haul the trash trailer themselves.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, do you?
Yeah, no, I think,
Can we just ask for a clarification? Are you saying we don't take our waste to Covanta?
The town trucks do not haul them. You outsource.
yeah,
We have a contract with a third party that has a tractor-trailer unit that takes our trailers off Cape to Covanta.
All right, but that's new because we do have drivers that are driving off Cape, but that's going to the recycling.
Yeah, we drive our roll-off trucks off Cape and throughout the Cape for recycling materials.
Okay.
But for our trash haulers, it needs to be an 18-wheeler cab, and we don't have one.
Yes, I just want to make sure that was clarified. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff?
so now I'll overstate the obvious. We don't want to put our local haulers out of business. We want to make sure that they have a vibrant business, but we also want to cover our costs. So we have to strive for a balancing act between those two disparate, desires. So I would suggest, as Shireen brought it up earlier, that we remand this to the Economic Development Committee with a timetable and say, and just say, get back, please, with a recommendation that says, we're going to cover our costs, we're not going to put these guys out of business. And that's a motion.
Can I amend your?
Second.
Can I amend your motion
Anything you
to?
want.
I guess I can, because I'm the chair.
You're the chair.
I would offer an amendment to encourage the Economic Development Committee in that consideration to also look at the possibility of a phased-in approach and to consider that reaching the $135 cost is not necessarily the end game. And I say that well, that's the amendment. I don't know if someone wants to offer and accept that amendment.
I'm open to it.
Okay, thank you. So I'll take that as a second. The reason I put that forward is based on comments that I made earlier. I put some stock in the fact that these are two longstanding local businesses that contribute to the community. And when you want to support the community, you have to be willing to consider subsidies. We do that with other businesses in this town. We do that with recreation in this town. We do that with tourism in this town, to the detriment of some of us who live downtown, for example, as I do. But, so that's where I'm going with that.
Point well made.
Thank you. Mr. Metters.
Just want to make a couple comments. So just remember, the 135 is our current operating
Yeah,
cost, so
that
that could be moved a little, around. So we just got to keep that in mind. And I'm fine, we can bring it to the EDC, but let's set a date that we can bring it back to us, flush it out, have conversations, and maybe don't like, and go back and forth. So I don't want to push this out, until next June. I don't know, maybe something next late fall? Is that too early?
Well, it shouldn't be for this season. It's too
Yeah.
late.
Well-
Do we have a fully appointed EDC
Not
yet?
later tonight.
Later tonight, if you
We
vote.
will have
you
it
will,
tonight.
Yes.
And then they're going to have to organize and have a chair and all of that.
This would be a good charge for them, though.
Okay.
It'd be good.
Yes, and we were looking for something to give them to do. They'll be happy with this.
Lucky, yeah.
Let's just reframe the motion so we know what we're voting on. We're going to remand this to the EDC for a report back by when?
How about an update? How about an update by mid-fall?
Recommendation.
Recommendation.
Update, yeah.
We
By
don't-
October 15th.
Fine.
That's fine.
On increasing the transfer station fees with a target of approaching the, with a target of approaching a break-even point for the town, but on a staggered basis.
In consideration of cost-benefit analysis, there's other factors than
Yes.
just numbers here.
Yes.
And
we'll
that
add
has to be
in.
reflected in the motion.
We'll
But
add
that's
that-
what we're looking
We'll
for.
add that language in.
Yeah.
So that's the motion as amended.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, the meeting is on the 14th of October, not the 15th.
What's that?
You might want to change the date to the 14th, as
Is
the
that a
15th
board
is.
meeting?
Yes.
October 14th. Thank you. Stuart?
Would it be helpful to, I think it would be, to somehow ask the Finance Committee to take a look at this. I think we're at least I am, I'm missing the bigger picture financial, like what are our goals and what are we trying to do? Yes, we subsidize some operations, but we don't subsidize all operations. This one probably, I'd like to hear from the Finance Committee from a.
Sure. What we could do, I mean, we could address it to both committees, or we could ask the Economic Development Committee to consult with the Finance Committee and seek their input.
Yeah, as long as we hear from them, I think it's important.
Yeah. So we'll include that in the motion. So I'll offer that as superseding motion.
I'll re-second it.
All right. Any discussion on the motion? Okay. So I'll take a vote. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, 5-0. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We'll close the public hearing. Thank you. You can have that letter back, sir. Benjamin. Thank you. That's okay. Now, next we have our report, our monthly report on Chatham Wells, PFAS and drinking water testing and pumping update, May 2025. Mr. Faley.
Good evening. So I just want to give you the monthly report for drinking water testing and pumping. So the wells have been running for 3 to 11 hours per day, and we did not receive any low-level alarms for the month of May. Sorry, bear with me, please. So as far as Training Field Wells 5 and 8, the permanent treatment facility for PFAS, exterior brickwork is 99% complete. There's some photos in your packet. The roof trusses have been installed. Roof work is ongoing, and interior piping and valve work continues. We're still on schedule. Things are really looking sharp up there. So update on the wells 10 and 11. I just heard back from the Energy and Environmental Affairs Office yesterday. They had a final couple of edits, and we're looking for some more information and provided that to them today. So hopefully this is it, and we're going to get a revised document for your signature here very soon. Water sampling, all the bacteria samples, nitrate samples, everything is coming back in good shape. There were 60 residential lead and copper samples that were collected along with samples from the public schools and 2 daycares. We're waiting on those results. Station maintenance continues. Well 4 is online and pumping. The hydrant painting continues. The flushing program is completed. Meter reading is ongoing. Nothing unusual to report operational-wise. Here is the comparison to May of 2024. As you can see at the bottom, sorry about this format. It doesn't seem to be working very well, but we're pretty much spot on with last year this time. Few million-gallon days are starting to show up. That's just going to ramp up for summer. And here is the pumping graphs. Again, pink is May of 2025. You see some spikes from last year, but nothing unusual over the pumping comparisons. There's a bar chart showing similar information. Again, May 25 is the orange bars. And then we come down to the monthly report that shows the level of effort for each well. You can see we did some maintenance on well 11. We shut that down for a few days earlier in the month. May 19th kind of jumps out a little bit, where South Chatham wells were really pumping. They had over 1 million gallons just by those 3 wells. And you can see some of the other wells were pumping a lot less. I believe that's just due to some ongoing maintenance. Here's the pumping graph that shows the level of effort for each pump. The year-to-date pumping report. We've pumped 103 million gallons by the end of May. Last year we were at 107, so 3.5 million gallons less. Pretty much right on target where we should be. Again, here's the pumping graph showing the same information, just you can really see how, which is consistently how wells 1, 2, and 3 really contribute the most to Chatham's drinking water. And since we are in a drought, here's the unmetered water usage, a little over 2 million gallons. Our flushing, our hydrant flushing is completed. That was completed sometime during the month of May, so we should see at least that instead of 1.3 million gallons. That should go down substantially for the summer. Here's the 5-year report. Again, I apologize for the format. It doesn't seem to be cooperating as well. But in yellow is May of 25, and then in gray is the average. So we are just below the average on usage, and we are well below average on the pumping runtime. This, the observation wells, they have a new upgraded software program at USGS, so this has a little bit of a different appearance than it had in the past. This is Chatham's well. You can see that we have crested, and we are starting the seasonal decline, which we expected, during this time of year. I don't like this format as much because it's hard to put on some of those lines to really compare point to point, so bear with me as I work with it for next month. Here's Brewster's, same kind of thing. That I think they've just crested, but they're not in a seasonal decline yet, so that's just a matter of time. I'm sure the rain today has helped, so we'll see where we are. And really just wanted to bring up the drought update. Energy and Environmental Affairs Office met yesterday to discuss drought conditions throughout Massachusetts. So drought conditions are improving. All of Massachusetts, with the exception of Cape Cod and the islands, is no longer in a drought. The islands are still at level 1, and Cape Cod is still at level 2. That's what they would recommend we stay at. So May precipitation has been stronger. It's not as bleak as it had looked last month, but it's still early in summer. So we met with the Water and Sewer Advisory Committee earlier today, and they also recommended that we stay at level 2 until next month. Next month, the Drought Task Force is meeting just to discuss Cape and the Islands.
It's unfortunate that they don't hold their meetings down here when we have a rainstorm like we just had. But anyway, are there any questions or comments to Rob on the report? Detailed as usual. Stuart.
Sure. I just had it. It's under your 2025 yearly unmetered water usage. Bear with me. You know this inside and out. I can tell you tides, but I can't help you with the fresh water. It says fire department usage, and you give your 195,000 in January, goes down to like 53,000 in March, and then 250,000 in May. What are they using the water for?
I believe there was a fire in May.
Okay.
It was a structure fire.
Okay.
And these are, I don't think they're 100% accurate. I think they're more estimated based on runtime.
Yeah, they don't put a meter on no, right. No. This is just okay. And the other known use, it's blank, but then in April it's 221,000. So you're using that. We just don't know where that's going. What does that mean?
To be quite honest, I'd have to look into that a little further.
Okay.
It's not like we lost it. It was used. It just wasn't a category that was tracked on the left-hand column.
Okay. I just noticed that the others were blank, and that one was kind of stands out. Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Jeff?
I just had a quick one on our friend Well 10. Were we gonna hear before it's summertime, you think, from the state? Have we rattled that cage up in Capitol Hill at all to see if we can free this up? I ask about it just about every month, or every other week.
Rob alluded to good news, so that's the one where the conservation restriction is I'd say it's 90% done as of today. We agreed on the changes to be made, and we're hoping to hear back like next week.
They were very responsive in their last review. I think it only took them, a few weeks. So now we're really just, we've accepted their edits.
Okay.
And so we're just waiting for them to make the final changes to the document and send it back to us.
Shereen?
What are some of the issues that we need editing on? I mean, is it,
It's like legal language in the conservation easement.
okay,
There are certain requirements that they have to have in every easement. It may seem minor to me, but I guess it's important to their legal team to
Okay.
have those included.
thank you.
Stuart, did you have something else?
Yeah, I just had it's very quick. Well, 4, 5, and 8, obviously, we're not using those.
Well 4 is started up, but it doesn't show in May. I think it was started up very early June.
And how long was that down? Was that a long?
We turn it off seasonally.
Okay. And then you turn it
It's
when
not
you
needed
need
in the
it.
wintertime.
And 5 is? just-
5 and 8 have the water treatment plant that is iron
being
and manganese
replaced.
and PFAS.
Gotcha. Yeah, the building on Training Field looks good.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. All right. So I guess the question is, does the board want to do anything? We have a recommendation from the Water and Sewer Advisory Committee to basically keep things in place as they are, which is a 2-day-a-week permitted watering between, there were certain hours, what is it, after 9?
Before 9 a.m. and after 5 p.m.
Okay. And on alternate, it's Tuesdays and Thursdays for odd-numbered, and what is it, Wednesday and Friday for even-numbered homes? Whatever it
I
is,
just don't
it's
remember if it's
posted.
on-
Yeah, you're right, correct, yes.
Posted.
So no
And-
watering on Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Yeah, and we strongly encourage people that have private wells to honor that. So, okay, my recommendation is we just stay with it. We don't have to take any votes if that's the consensus of the board.
Yes.
Stuart?
Do we have any, do you have any thoughts or ideas on how effective these restrictions are? I mean, I don't know, does anybody ever get cited for violating them? And I get, it'd probably be difficult to measure how effective they are, because I kind of question it, but feels good to do
It
it.
takes a lot of labor hours and people tend to water very early in the morning.
Yeah.
So it would take us, overtime to check. We've had enough rain lately that I would think people aren't really watering as much as they normally would. I think the real test is going to be like when we get a dry July. and
Right.
It'll really be noticeable who is watering, and we'll be able to enforce it a little bit more that way.
And if you have a rain sensor on your system, it won't run. I think it showed, though, in the last couple of years, the voluntary restrictions that we had in place did produce some conservation, some reduction in use. I think we saw that at the Water and Sewer Committee. All right, so I think we're done with this item? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Rob. And thank you for your detailed report previously on the transfer station item. Next item is public comments on the business agenda. Let me go over the business agenda, and then we'll entertain any public comments. First item is a one-day alcohol license for Oktoberfest from the Chamber of Commerce and Merchants Association. Next, permission to use town facilities in a special one-day alcohol license and entertainment license for a town beach party for Monomoy Community Services. 4 special alcohol licenses for the Creative Arts Center. And then we will hear from the police chief on enhanced security and safety measures for Chatham's public beaches for the July 4th holiday weekend and the remainder of the summer season. Next, there are 4 select board member items, all of which on all of which we will accept contemporaneous public comment, so you can defer any public comment until then. The first is from Mr. Metters to consider amending the meeting public participation policy. The next is from Vice Chair Dykens for a discussion on camera use by remote public participants in select board meetings. Next is from our clerk, Stuart Smith, for a discussion on minute taking for select board meetings. And the next is from myself to consider rescinding the backlog of agenda item requests and allow for a fixed time for sponsors to submit a new request for the item via the executive assistant. And then finally, we have consideration of appointments and reappointments. There's a slate of candidates for reappointment to advisory and non-regulatory committees, appointments to the Cemetery Commission, to the Summer Residence Advisory Committee, and Economic Development Advisory Committee. We do not accept public comment on committee appointments and reappointments. So with that, are there any public comments from anyone in the audience? In person? Any online? I see none. So with that in mind,
Mr. Chair,
yeah,
I'm going to recuse myself on business item A and B.
okay.
And
thank
so will I, so.
Okay, that duly noted. And I'm going to ask Mr., I'm going to call the first one, which is to consider a special one-day alcohol licenses for Oktoberfest. Kristen Muller, Chatham Chamber of Commerce and Merchants Association. And I'm going to ask Mr. Dykens to preside, and I will be back before you take your vote, so you'll have a quorum for the vote.
Okay. Kristen, you've been here
Lots of times.
lots of times, and it's kind of too bad you had to come back, but those are the rules of the game.
That's
so,
okay.
Just
So
give us a little overview on what you're about,
Yeah,
what's
so
going
I
on.
think we have, I hope we didn't lose them by now, Eric Christensen
Okay.
from the Poor Garden and Jamie Cunningham from Whalers Brewing Company are somewhere online there. The liquor licenses for Oktoberfest will be granted, hopefully, if you approve them, in their names. They are the purveyors. I've just done this so many times that I told them I would do this with them. We are following essentially all of the same processes as last year. Eric was our vendor last year, and so we will do the clear cups. We will have the board, like, everything you approved when you gave us permission to have the event will be followed through on the liquor licenses. And then Jamie is here because Whalers Brewing Company has requested permission to have a tasting tent next to Eric's Poor Garden in the town hall lot only. I think the original permits were submitted for both vendors in both lots, but Whalers is only requesting town hall lot. Poor Garden would be operating in both lots like they did last year.
So what's changed this year versus last year?
Nothing in terms of Poor Garden. We would be adding Whalers, having a tent adjacent. They work together a lot, and so Whalers has requested having a tent adjacent to the Poor Garden that would simply be tasting. They'd be, Jamie could probably answer the size. It's probably an ounce or two, whatever it is, separate from the sold and consumed alcohol on premises. Full disclosure, I will be probably back in a couple of weeks because we are also contracting with a wine vendor separate from these guys, but that will be a separate permit because we have to identify that vendor first. So today we're only talking about the beer and malt.
Okay. Any questions? Anybody else? Stuart, do you have a question at all for Kristen?
Either Kristen and or you or Jill, maybe. This is the same thing every year.
Yes.
Yeah. So is there and I don't see it unless I missed it. Is there like a statutory requirement that these repeat requests come to the board? And that is non-delegable, I assume. And that's why we're here.
Correct. The
It's
state's,
not like I want to give away a job, but
no.
I do.
it's the state's Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission's regulations that any event is required to get a special, if they're not, a restaurant that has a license under the common victualer's license and an alcohol license in that regard, would need to obtain a special one day. Each entity is allowed 10 licenses per year. So even though it is an annual event, every year they do need to come before, because we do need to provide this special one-day license to the state as well, saying that the local licensing board, which is the select board, has granted this.
And we have this is more of a question, we have a licensing agent, right?
Currently it's Shauna, but I've been training as well, so.
Congratulations. So, just to, maybe we have to think about it, but, so under local regulation and charter, there's no way for the board, and I don't know that they would, but I'm just curious, there's no way for the board to delegate this to a licensing type agent.
I think we just have to look into it. I think many towns had done that in the past, but I haven't seen that done in the last 20 years or so. So we'll look at that, and then we have our local regulations too,
Right.
and that requires someone to be in attendance for the one-day alcohol licenses as well.
Yeah, it just it just seems like this one, not to minimize your event, but we're always going to approve, I don't think we ever denied this or any other previous boards. So it harkens back to the discussion we had either last week or the week before on, moving a telephone pole. I'm assuming, right or wrong, I'm assuming that it's a statutory requirement that it belongs here and that we're not able, I don't know the answer to this, but we're not able to delegate that to someone else.
I suspect we can't. I'm from Quincy originally, and there's a licensing board in Quincy which consists of certain department heads, like the city clerk who runs it. They meet every week. I mean, there are a lot of licenses in Quincy, as you can expect.
Yeah.
And I think that's a function that is assigned to the executive body, and and it could be looked into, and we can always ask town council, but I
Yeah,
think
I mean, it's always,
I know what you're getting at.
I'm always
More
interested.
efficient and,
Well, it might be more efficient than some of these more routine ones.
yeah.
If nothing changes, it seems like, I mean, not that I'd mind staying here till whenever, but if it's routine, unless it's absolutely required, we ought to consider some other mechanism.
Well, I suppose the way you could have a consent calendar, and you could have, all the applications listed, and if a member of the board wanted to pull it, I suppose you could do it that way.
Yeah, I just look at the future agendas, and I think,
No, I know.
we're taking time.
Sure.
Not to minimize these functions,
Yeah.
but we're taking time here when we're pushing our meetings, we're going to go every other week till late October. I think that's too late, but we can chat about that later. I just think that if there was economies here, maybe we got to consider it.
One argument on the other side is that, for example, in an event like this, it gives the sponsor an opportunity to sort of get some free publicity for.
Yeah, but that could
does.
be done at the beginning of the meeting during
Yeah,
announcements of
yeah,
public
okay,
interest,
right. Did you have something?
I think the consent idea is a good one, and I think we should probably look into it.
Well, we
can run more of a consent agenda. We can talk
do
about
that.
that.
Okay, Stuart, did you have any more?
Thank you, thanks, Jeff.
I apologize for not being for your presentation, but do we have a motion?
I move to grant a special one-day alcohol license for wine and malt beverages to Eric Christensen of Pours and Bites for Oktoberfest 2025 on Saturday, October 18th, 2025, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Oyster Lot at Cape Gould Park, Chatham.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and no discussion, so I'll call the roll. Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair says aye.
I move to grant a special one-day alcohol license for wine and malt beverages to Erica Christensen of Eric Christensen of
No, Erica is the
sorry,
second one.
Erica Christensen of Pours and Bites for Oktoberfest 2025 on Saturday, October 18th, 2025, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Town Hall parking lot at 549 Main Street, Chatham.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Call the roll. Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. There's a third motion. Mr.
Chairman, I
Dykens?
move to grant two special one-day alcohol licenses for,
one.
okay, one
Town Hall.
special, I move to grant one special one-day alcohol license for wine and malt beverages to Jamie Cunningham of Whalers Brewing Company for Oktoberfest 2025 on Saturday, October 18th, 2025, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Town Hall parking lot at 549 Main Street, Chatham.
Second, Stuart?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. And so all
Thank you.
three are good. Does this complete all your licenses for October?
Oh, she's coming back.
The wine vendor, once we
Okay.
finalize that.
Okay, thank you, Kristen.
Thank you.
Next item is consider granting permission for use of town facilities, a special one-day alcohol license and a special one-day entertainment license, Town Beach Party on June 18th, 2025, and Back to Summer 25 concert on July 5th, 2025. Teresa Malone, Monomoy Community Services. Welcome, Teresa.
Hello. When I read the notice, I went, wait a minute, we're not getting an alcohol permit for the beach party. But I realized that was to go with the airport concert. So just to clear, what we're asking for the beach party, which is the 26th annual, is the use of the space. Mom and Pops will be the food truck there. Perry's Ice Cream will be continuing their route and staying a little later, and we usually have about 180 to 200 people.
Okay. Any questions?
Oh, just a clarification. So you filled out a one-day special alcohol permit?
For the beach party? No.
Oh, it's in here, but it's not for,
It's,
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure. Thank you. All right, you're set.
I will take one, Jill, if you want to give it.
I'm not sure that would go over.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move to approve the use of town property at the first beach and parking lot of Harding's Beach on Wednesday, June 18th, 2025, from 4:30 to 8:30 to Teresa Malone of Monomoy Community Services.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And we'll call the roll. Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair says aye.
And Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the use of town property at Chatham Municipal Airport, 240 George Ryder Road, Chatham, on Saturday, July 5th, 2025, from 6:30 to 10 p.m. to Teresa Malone of Monomoy Community Services.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Call the roll. Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair says aye.
And I move to grant a special one-day alcohol license to Teresa Malone of Monomoy Community Services for Saturday, July 5th, 2025, from 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. at Chatham Municipal Airport, 240 George Ryder Road, Chatham.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Call the roll. Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
The chair says aye, 4-0.
And Mr. Chairman, I move to grant a special one-day entertainment license to Teresa Malone of Monomoy Community Services for amplified live music at Chatham Municipal Airport, 240 George Ryder Road, on Saturday, July 5th, 2025, from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Chair says aye. You've got them all. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Next, consider 4 special one-day alcohol licenses for Creative Arts Center, 154 Crowell Road for June 19th, 2025, July 25th, 2025, September 5th, 2025, and October 17th, 2025. Amy Middleton, Chatham Creative Arts Center. This is continued from June 3rd, 2025. Yes?
Yes. My apologies for not being here. Last week, I tried unsuccessfully to get online, and by the time I got over here, it was a very quick selectmen's meeting because it was breaking up.
So tell us a little bit about what you're
So
looking for.
with the exception of the June 19th date, the others are all of our regular exhibit opening receptions that we've had for years. The June 19th date is at the Chatham Beach and Tennis Club, and that is our annual fundraising gala auction.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the board or any motions?
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant 4 special one-day alcohol licenses for wine and malt beverages only to Amy Middleton of the Creative Arts Center at 154 Crowell Road for the following dates and times: Thursday, June 19th, 2025, from 6 to 8:30 p.m., Friday, July 25th, 2025, from 4:30 to 6 p.m., Friday, September 5th, 2025, from 4:30 to 6 p.m., and Friday, October 17th, 2025, from 4:30 to 6 p.m.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, but question.
Yes.
Should we clarify that the June 19th is at a different location? Did I misunderstand the location of
No,
that?
the location is different. On June 19th, it's at the Chatham Beach and Tennis Club. All the other ones are at the Creative Arts Center.
154 Crowell Road, okay.
Yeah.
Should we just modify the
Sure.
location?
Yeah, Thursday, June 19th, to be held at the Beach and Tennis Club.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. And that's the second is accepted on that as well?
Yes.
Okay. Have we taken the vote? Okay, so call the roll. Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
And Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair says aye, so it's 5-0. Good luck, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Next, consider enhanced security and safety measures for Chatham's public beaches for the July 4th holiday weekend and the remainder of the summer season, and we have our police chief, Michael Anderson. Chief Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'll try to be brief. Over the past few years, the police department has been called to investigate and handle large gatherings on our public beaches. These large gatherings primarily involve crowds of several hundred younger people, some and most under the age of 21. The amount of these violations has dramatically increased due to several reasons and several factors, consisting of some of our neighboring communities close their public beaches entirely during select dates during the summer, and this causes non-residents to be displaced here. The result of this displacement is that the illegal gatherings migrate to our beaches. Chatham's many miles of beaches, many just off of a parking lot, makes beach patrols and beach regulation enforcement a challenge to our staff. Also, the troubling increase in use of social media enables a flash announcement of an illegal gathering in Chatham that reaches several hundred possible attendees from across the Cape. And it's this same social media that allows the illegal partygoers to announce our arrival and then their relocation location to another beach, usually in town. Unfortunately, these illegal beach activities and beach parties have the potential to involve and have involved the following: minors in possession of alcohol, operations of vehicles under the influence of alcohol, public intoxication which may lead to police protective custody, medical emergencies, fights and disturbances, weapons violations, vandalisms, destruction of public and private property, noise, illegal fireworks, destruction of our beaches, grasses, and dunes. And it forces us to request mutual aid from our neighboring departments, which is not guaranteed. The police department will already be taxed with other historically high calls for service during the 4th of July holiday period and other busy days or summer weekends. You may recall the coordinated plans that public safety put in place with other town departments in response to last year's 4th of July North Beach Island party, which was highly advertised on social media, which we had to investigate and deal with. The police department is only looking to re-highlight the existing regulations and announce publicly here that these regulations mentioned below, along with other town bylaws and state laws, will be enforced. Some of these include these current Chatham Beach and Park regulations. I won't go into detail because you have them, but 1.1, functions or gatherings of unscheduled or unpermitted or without permission from the Director of Park and Recs, and the groups are as defined as 10 people or more. And that's a very small number. We very seldom get a large youth alcohol party with 10 people or less. Obviously, open fires of any kind are forbidden on any beach or park area. Alcoholic beverages are banned in park or beach areas at any time except with the written permission of you. Town of Chatham beaches and beach parking areas already close at 10 p.m. and reopen 1 hour before sunrise. After the official closing time of 10 p.m. currently, only persons actively engaged in fishing activities shall be permitted on our beaches. That will not change with this proposal. It's the police department's request to suspend the current rule and amend the time change for just a small 1 hour increase from 10 p.m. to 9 p.m. and then to 1 hour before sunrise. These time changes would be for the dates of July 4th, 5th, and 6th, and, if possible, any other date through Labor Day if conditions dictate as determined by the police department, if we gather intelligence or stumble upon one of these prior to 10 p.m. And I'll read an excerpt from the Chatham Beach and Park regulations. Certain of the above rules that I just mentioned may be suspended from time to time by a majority vote of the Chatham Park and Recreation Commission. And I will just let you know that on June 2nd, I presented this material and these requests to the Park and Recreation Commission, and we received a unanimous vote of support on that. It's the plan for the police department to enforce these regulations and amend the regulations by actively placing police officers at all of the town's Chatham public beaches during these closure times. We are looking for the board's support in amending the closing times for all of our public beaches and lots to 9 p.m. on July 4th, 5th, 6th, and any other dates through Labor Day if conditions dictate. Thank you. And again, it's not a big ask. They already close at 10 o'clock. I'm just asking if we could bump it up an hour. This lets people enjoy the sunsets, but most of the nonsense happens after dark.
Thank you, Chief. And I thank you very much. And I appreciate you and your department trying to get ahead of this issue proactively for the coming season. Any questions or comments? Shireen, I think you were first.
Yeah, thanks. Chief, these are the public beaches just in town. You're not talking about North Beach Island or anything. I mean, is it?
Not North Beach Island,
Yeah,
not Nauset Beach. Again, I believe Nauset might be closed or will be
Right,
closing
yeah.
because of the birds. This would be Lighthouse Beach and the south-facing beaches.
okay, all right. All right, I'm in favor of this.
Corey?
You can see-
No, I think I applaud you for being proactive on this. I mean, this particular weekend, Friday for July 4th, it's going to be a long weekend. It could be, mischief always will happen at, any given time, but to be able to prepare and put the community at, in as safest position as possible is the most, is the appropriate thing to do. I know you were before the Park and Rec, and they were unanimous in their support of it. I mean, for us, the easy lift is just to support our rollback. The heavy lift is going to be to enforce the rules and regulations that are frankly already on the books, and hopefully nothing gets too out of control, but you're just doing, enforcing what is already exists. So
And we're going to try to absorb the cost of that ourselves from our own budget.
So I can support this fully, and wish everyone, just a fair warning. Just be smart, have fun, but be smart, and try to minimize any activities. And I don't believe you actually said it here tonight, but basically the goal would be to kind of staff at the entrances of Harding's, Ridgevale, Cockle Cove, Forest, and Pleasant.
Correct, that's the goal if possible.
Yep. No, I'm supportive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff?
Yeah, I'm supportive as well. I know the town of Dennis a couple of years ago had a real problem, a real scene, and they've shut the beaches down and have Harwich, Orleans, Dennis, they're following suit again.
Harwich has a closure this summer at 9 o'clock. I don't know how strictly they enforce it. But I know in the past, we have been mostly reactive. This year, I'm hoping to get out in front of it and be a lot more proactive
Yep.
and encourage any type of illegal activity to go someplace else.
Okay, gotcha.
What about jackknife? Is that an issue at all?
Not as much as the south-facing beaches, because anything that happens at Jackknife, you've got Orleans Road that drives right by it, and any type of beach fire or large gathering can be easily seen.
Got it.
And we can stay on top of it. But any of our south-facing beaches, once you really get off the parking lot and go right or left, they're almost invisible unless we're out there actively trying to deter that.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Stuart?
Yeah, I remember kind of living this before I retired in some cases. It's been an evolving problem, I'll grant you that. Under the first part, recommendations and actions requested. These regulations are adopted by the Parks and Rec Commission. And so I look at that paragraph, then I look at the other one that says, you know, the Chatham Police Department is only looking to re-highlight the existing regulations and announce publicly that these regulations mentioned below will be enforced, blah, blah, blah. I get it, that makes sense. So are we just like, what are we supposed to be doing here? Are you asking for like us to endorse that regulation, or you just?
My goal tonight is, like I said, the police department has the support from the Park and Rec to change the hour from 10 to 9.
Oh, you're just looking for?
Right. This might upset some people in town, but I think it's for the greater good, and I would just love the select board's support for that.
Okay, and you mentioned that Harwich has scaled back to 9 o'clock as well?
I believe it's 9 o'clock. I think we saw a sign today. If you could just pull that up, I think it's 9 o'clock, an hour earlier. But I can't speak for how they're going to staff their beaches or strictly they're going to enforce their beaches. I would hope that they don't, so our problems are displaced to Harwich, but I don't want to say that. But
Yeah, that's fine.
like I said, it's when we fall behind in an area like this, I might have 1 or 2 police officers, 200, 300, 400 yards down the beach in a group of 300 kids.
Right. Okay, the other,
Excuse me, while you're thinking, Chief, the sign says beach parking lot closed 10 PM to 6 AM.
That the red sign?
That's the red sign,
Okay,
yes.
and then it says, just the added, what our current signs don't have is
Increased
strictly
police enforcement.
increased police.
Do you have it?
Oh, there you go, right there.
There you go.
That's what Harwich has on their beaches. We have this on most of our beach shacks, except it's not red and white. I believe it's white with green letters, but it doesn't say anything about increased police enforcement.
so are they going to 9 o'clock, or they just didn't change the sign?
No, I think that's the time.
That's the
I was,
time, okay.
I misspoke. I
That's
thought it was
fine.
9 o'clock, but it's 10 o'clock.
And you mentioned at the beginning, you know, the whole social media impact, and that did I hear you? The other communities are not allowing non-residents, and that's pushing some of those people here? Or did you say?
Depending upon the level of closures that we have in other communities and the level of enforcement, I'm only paraphrasing what other communities have done. I believe other communities have restricted or prohibited single-day beach passes even during the daytime, so obviously at night. Really restricting certain beaches from being closed totally. If a community down the road next door to us shuts down, let's say even half of their beaches, they just get displaced until they're not patrolled anymore or enforced anymore.
Yeah.
And last year, we really had to play catch-up, and we were playing defense.
And did I hear the proposal is to, the reason I ask these questions,
Yep.
this is a very open-ended, broad sweep of a problem that definitely exists. That sort of, thing sometimes concerns me, but in any event, is your proposal to put a police officer at each one of these, the beach booths?
Yes,
Okay, so.
even the ones without.
Even the ones without, so like Lighthouse Beach and.
Pleasant, Forest.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Because this memo goes beyond that. It encompasses all of these beaches, which I'm sure is not your intent, but could impact, our entire.
Schoolhouse.
Well, it could, schoolhouse, okay, but that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm more concerned about getting ourselves into a situation where we have a significant policy change on trying to police 66 miles of coastline for gatherings of any more than 10 people. It's the existing regs, I get it. If we're contemplating that, that's a significant chore in resources and personnel, which I'm sure the police department is not prepared for. So, I'm a little concerned about that. Do we have an estimate? You might, I don't know. An estimate on the costs that might, I know the police department's going to bear the cost, but do we have a cost estimate? Because I'm assuming that that's going to come up in the upcoming budget season. We spent X amount of dollars doing this activity. Now we're going to raise that account to deal with this new policy.
Well, Mr. Chair, and through you to the chief, so it already closes at 10, so are you using a different level of enforcement for the 9 PM versus what would normally be done by the department for 10 PM?
Without opening the playbook too much to the public, we were thinking, how do I put this without opening the playbook?
You don't have to answer, if that's your question, that's fine. You don't have to answer it for me. I don't need to get that far.
I'm just trying to figure out the cost analysis, so if it's an hour of additional time for the assignments for patrol per se, I don't know what that impact is. And maybe offline, we can talk about that and get back to you.
I would
if that's the
appreciate
question, yeah.
Yeah, because it sounds like the chief has a plan, it makes sense to me. I just don't know what the cost impacts to that are. Okay, it's fine that it's going to be borne by the police department, but we're going to have to deal with that at some point.
If it makes any sense to the rest of the board and you, it would come out of a budget line item that we've already increased for this coming July 1st, and we believe we would have a surplus in it because some of the money that budget would fund historically was paying Chatham anglers police details, and over the past 2 years, we've been reducing the amount of those police details for only specific dates and events. So we have a surplus. We had a surplus last year. We asked for more this year because of the police detail rate increased. So I can absorb easily the increased police presence if I can get those spots filled with what I have on the books now.
Okay, and was this, kind of like a question before on the subject, was this chatted about during the development of the budget starting July 1? Like, did the town have a conversation and say, hey, we're gonna do these actions, and it's gonna cost $20,000, and we're gonna add it to our, or whatever the amount is, and we're gonna add it to our
I
police?
don't remember any conversation during the budget presentations here.
We did. Internally, we had conversations about the absorption of the overtime and detail pay rates for 4th of July in particular. This year, it happens to be a week full of other events. And so that's why the proposal here, as I understand it, is for July 4th, 5th, and 6th, and any other dates that may be needed for a 9 PM closure.
Right. And Labor Day, apparently, and the.
Through Labor Day.
Yeah, through Labor Day.
Yep.
We have Labor Day parties, I'm assuming we're gonna have to deal with that somehow, I don't know.
Just so we're clear, we're already answering these type of calls already.
Right. Agreed.
They're already happening.
Yeah, so, I'm a little leery about the open-endedness of the program. I'm not even sure, so, but here, it's 2.5 weeks before the 4th of July, so I guess we are where we are. I guess I could, somewhat reluctantly support this program, and, even the change in the hour, here again, I'm not, but I get that we're getting these other folks from these other communities, and they're coming here, and we have to react. It's like Jell-O. But I think we need to have an evaluation of this, specifically during the budget season, maybe after the summer, Jill and the chief come back and say, hey, this is what we did, this was what worked, we liked it or we didn't like it. A post-analysis so we can maybe understand this better.
Sure, and the new software that we have for the police department, it's really easy for us to pull up that financial data based on overtime and detail hours.
Yeah, because it's the overtime and well, there's no detail. This will be overtime because we can't pass this cost, I don't think, to anyone because there's no organized function.
No,
Yeah, so-
we could bill this out to another community, another police officer. I could have a Howard police officer come work for me.
Oh, no, I know that. I'm thinking it's not a Stu Smith wedding party where we would
No,
hire a detail to come in and you charge us.
I'm
for
not
that.
billing the park and
Yeah,
rec department.
exactly.
Correct, no.
There's no other entity to charge, so it's really not a detail, it's an overtime.
It's an overtime, I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's a detail rate
Yeah.
as an overtime rate, and that's in the collective bargaining agreement. But we can absolutely do the
Yeah, I just wanted
analysis
to
after this.
clarify that.
Sure.
We get into these things, and before you know it, we have the enormous cost with it.
Well, we'll have some information after the season, if this is adopted, we can, entrust this to the police department. I'm sure they'll do it as efficiently as they can, and then we'll have some data to,
And there's a strong possibility, if I've got 5 openings on July 5th, I could only fill 3 of them. I'll fill 3 and do the best I can.
yeah. Okay. Any more, Stuart?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other comment or want to offer a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to amend the closing times of all Chatham public beaches from 10 p.m. to 1, quote, 10 p.m. to 1 hour before sunrise, end quote, to 9 p.m. to 1 hour before sunrise for the dates of July 4th, 5th, and 6th, 2025, and any date through Labor Day 2025 if conditions dictate as determined by the Chatham Police Department.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, I'll call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters? Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Okay, Chief, you have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next item is consider amending the meeting public participation policy. This was requested by Board Member Metters, and I'll turn it over to you, Corey, and then I have some comments on it, too.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the board for entertaining this. This is something that I had brought up in the past. It's been a while, but I do think it's vital to have this conversation again. Basically, my goal in reviewing this is to have a clear and consistent policy. I want to have something that we have public who either come in person, they're online, they call in, and I want to be able to engage with them in a consistent manner. I'm not looking to take away anything from the chair and their discretion of how to manage a meeting. Obviously, that is a key component to our protocol, and I want the chair to have the flexibility required to run a meeting properly. But I want to be able to encourage public engagement. We have, over the last couple of years, been kind of all over the map in how we run meetings. Sometimes we'll have something that we feel that we should have had public comment on that's not listed on the agenda as having public comment during the agenda item. And at the meeting, we flip-flop and change it around. I just want to have a collective discussion with the 5 of us. What is appropriate? My biggest goal is to be able to engage in conversations with citizens or speakers or what have you. I know we have a policy right now that we have the public comment at the beginning of our just prior to our business agenda, and that's fine, but it lacks any type of back and forth dialogue to understand maybe what the comment of a citizen had. Maybe they make a comment and we want to make a certain response. Right now, they make a blanket comment, and it could be half hour, an hour before we actually have that agenda item on for the board discussion. So I want to have something that's clear to anyone attending the meetings. I want to set reasonable time limits. Again, maybe have a certain time limit established, giving the chair some discretion. You know, obviously certain agenda items get a little more heated or maybe a little more highly attended meetings. So maybe we get a little more flexibility on certain occasions. But, you know, I like to have comments made from the public. I want to be allowed to comments made from anyone online, whether it be via Teams or via phone call. But I want it basically at the beginning of every meeting, you know, a very clear understanding of what a citizen that comes to a meeting can expect. Because frankly, there's a lot of people that get really nervous coming to us. You know, they don't know, they don't want to speak before us. They may not know how to speak before us, and to have some policy that is consistent, that if they were to attend, they know, okay, should I speak now? Should I speak later? And what is the appropriate type of conversation that we had? We had a situation a couple weeks ago. There was a gentleman in the back room. He wanted to speak on something that wasn't even on the agenda, and I wish that we had tapped him on the shoulder, but he was able to engage with actually the town manager and his staff, you know, to address the issue. But there was a gentleman sitting in the back that wouldn't have even been able to speak according to, you know, our policy, but it wasn't and, you know, on the agenda. But I'm just looking to become a little more user-friendly, more clear, more engaging with the public, not trying to go overkill. But I think the policy we've had this last couple of years has been a little bit shaky, inconsistent, and I'd like to just kind of smooth it out a little bit. So I welcome your thoughts. I appreciate you guys letting me try to pitch this one more time. I swear I won't do it on more than an annual basis, but.
Shireen.
I want to clarify the man in the back. He was invited, like everybody else was, for public comment up ahead, our agenda item requests. In all fairness, he wasn't even from Chatham, so he was assuming that we ran our meetings like his town select board did, and he made that very clear when he came forward with whatever happened. Corey, you bring this forward a lot. I want to hear what your plan is. Do you have a plan? What would you like to, I mean, a proposal that says, this is what I'd like to do, and what do you guys think about it? And I think that would be a lot easier for us to go through rather than just go back and forth.
Perfect world, I'd like to go back to how we were about 4 years ago, where we had an agenda item, we'd have an open board discussion. If someone in the audience or online wanted to comment on it, we'd allow a comment. We could take their dialogue, answer questions, take their, have a back and forth if necessary, bring it back to the vote, close it, vote, and move forward. I actually like the old way.
I have some comments. I'm going to reserve them because I know you wanted to speak, but I'll reserve.
Well, I can.
No, I'm going to reserve my comments until after everybody, until a few other people have spoken.
I want to hear from you, Dean.
Yeah, I mean, when the rule was changed, because when I started on the board with Corey back in 2015, we had the old system, and maybe it was 5 years in when we changed, and we followed the practice that's done in other towns. Chatham was always pretty unique in allowing contemporaneous public comment. I remember going to sitting in at a board meeting in the town of Orleans. They're very strict. They have the public comments at the beginning, and they make it very clear that there's no public comment for the rest of the meeting. And the first few times that Corey brought this forward for reconsideration, I continued to support the change. The last time you brought it forward, I joined with Corey, and I think I was largely influenced by the fact that this current policy is a policy that's largely honored in the breach, because whenever we have had a matter of substantial broad interest, we have allowed contemporaneous public comment. With that said, I think I could support a return to the old policy, but I would want to make it very clear that there is no public comment on committee appointments, personnel issues, And I also want to reserve to the chair the absolute unfettered discretion to designate an item, a particular item, for board discussion only. That's a change from what I supported last time, because I really do think the chair ought to have the authority to say, okay, not to be abused, but a particular item really is for the board only. So that's kind of where I'm coming down. Jeff?
So, yeah, Corey's brought this up every year annually, I think, for the last 5 years or so since it changed. And I respect his perseverance, his persistence. And I've been very comfortable with the way it's been handled. I think that saying that it's been all over the map is a little bit of an overstatement. It's somewhat at the discretion of the chair as to what agenda items are subject to public comment. And I think all chairs, including Mr. Nicastro and others, have done a pretty darn good job identifying those hot-button items that were really, where we should solicit additional public input. We've had a few hot-button items, and I think that's gone pretty well. I think the chair should have his or her discretion on allowing a comment based on the nature of the agenda item. So I do think it's a little bit of an overstatement that's been all over the map. I think we've received public input when it was appropriate and at the breadth and depth of that input. I've had it in my 29-year public career every single which way. I've had the comment after every agenda item at the school committee. I've had comment after every agenda item here in the select board. I've had public comment on the school committees at the beginning of the meeting, at the end of the meeting. I've had, it's a balancing act between running a business meeting in the public. It's a balancing act. So I'm not immune to turning back the clock if Corey's, that's you're hell-bent on it. I'm not immune to trying that. I think it should be time limited, and I think the earlier conversation about our process and protocol for these meetings, I think we need to use the consent agenda more than we do. And maybe Dean and I, as chair and vice chair, can work on that. To an earlier point about the stuff that we rubber stamp, let's get that on a list where we know we're going to rubber stamp, but we can get to more substantive issues downstream. So I'm not going to stand in the way of the change. If the votes are there to change the protocol a bit, that's fine with me. I have been on record, and I'll continue to be on record, that I think it's been fine, to be honest with you. I think we're plenty transparent. I know there was a hue during the campaign that we're not transparent, blah, blah, blah. I disagree with that. I think we solicit public comment when it's appropriate, and we're more efficient as a result. I'll leave it there, and we'll listen to the rest of the folks.
I'll just interject before I call, and I guess Shireen might be next, and then Stuart. And this is a point that I know I made when we made the change, and I think this is important for the public to understand. We're not a legislative body. We are the executive of the town, and what this is a business meeting of the town's executive. And it's important as a priority for us to conduct our business in a manner that's efficient and effective. At the same time, we want to be transparent and we want to be participatory because we're encouraged by state law to do that. We're required by state law to do that in the Attorney General's office. So you're right, it is a balancing act, and I think those principles are important. So, Shireen?
Thank you. I agree. I hear what everybody is saying about this, and Jeff has put it well, because I think it's, having a consent calendar, if we do change the policy, would provide some efficiency. I don't think that we've done a bad job either. I believe that when we found the important issues that we need to discuss, then we do. People have the opportunity. I don't think people feel restricted. They may not understand the process, but a lot of people learn public policy process. They might be new, and that's how it happens. I think we've been pretty open-ended with that in mind. My issue is, and I've always thought that this is our meeting to conduct. It is a business meeting. We have 5 elected officials representing the town of Chatham. I would be, I just don't want to see a sixth selectman, kind of scenario start to happen. I don't necessarily think I need to be exchanging back and forth, continually with folks. I can hear a comment. I can absorb that comment if there is a question further. But this is our meeting to conduct, and I want to make sure that we hold that in its integrity for efficiency, and that we're doing the town's business, setting policy that goes to town meeting, which is the town's meeting. One of the things that I thought would be helpful is if we did look at public comment period being limited by a time, let's say 15 minutes, like our public announcement period, or that public comment is 2 to 3 minutes, not 5. 5 is, if you can't get your point across in 2 minutes, I think that, that doesn't work. That's where I would land. I don't think that I think I'm in the minority to say that I would stay with this policy, so I'm looking for the compromise at this point. And I would agree to this with a consent and then a very restrictive time limit during the time of the business agenda, and try to limit the back and forthism. We need to be discussing this, and we need to be making the decisions with the public input in a timely manner.
Thank you. Corey, are you suggesting that you would eliminate the public comment section at the beginning of the meeting? Because we didn't have that before.
I am fine eliminating that. I know I've seen different correspondence as people think that we should keep that, and I think that is kind of maybe not necessary. I'm not supporting that myself. I think I'm more into the potential to engage in a conversation during an agenda item. Let us run our meeting, but it seems kind of redundant to me, so I'm not suggesting that.
There was some suggestion in some of the correspondence, or one piece of correspondence, that the select board should not discuss anything until they heard from the public. I don't support that at all. I mean, I think we all do this. I have a pretty good idea how I'm going to vote when I show up at these meetings. Now, sometimes I'm persuaded in the other direction by listening to people or listening to my colleagues on this board. So just wanted to get those points across. Stuart, did you have any comment on this?
Yeah. I'm glad Corey brought this up. Had you not, I would have. I don't know where the policy or when it was developed or the reasoning. I have some idea that maybe there's certain folks that kind of overuse the public comment. I get it. That happens. I have to say I'm a little confused about setting a policy on this when the open meeting law clearly puts this in the chairperson's responsibility. I mean, I had to reread it because it's been a while, and certainly the Attorney General encourages public comment. They recommend it, but they don't mandate it. I think, we're a little bit of everything in that, yes, we're a public policy setting board. It's more than that. The assignment of the responsibilities of this board, we don't make up. We've been assigned that responsibility. It's either in statute or the charter or local bylaw. So I would agree that if the board wants a policy, well, then fine. But I think we should, as Shireen mentioned, limit to some reasonable amount of time. This is really the chairperson's responsibility, by the way. 2-3 minutes, whatever it is. It could vary depending on the subject. I can see that. But I do believe, as a public body, I need to hear from the public. And I have an idea on how I'm going to vote on a lot of these things. But I try to keep an open mind, and can be persuaded otherwise. So I would encourage that the chairperson run the meeting, they decide, and I would encourage the chairperson to have public comment after each subject. And, if you're hearing from one person, or whoever the chairperson is, and is hearing from one person, repeatedly or saying the same things endlessly, Stop. The chairperson is responsible for that, sorry, Dean, and they run the meeting.
I think the reason there's a policy, and the antecedent of this was presented, I think, by Norman Pagan a few years ago. We adopted a policy for all the committees, which didn't cover the select board, and then town council came in with this because there was a ruling from the Supreme Judicial Court saying, basically, the board has to listen to pretty much everything that comes forward. You can't even tell people not to criticize somebody else, that sort of thing. So I know what you're saying. The statute says the chair, I could say, I'm not hearing from anybody tonight. Sorry, go home. I could say that under the statute.
You could.
I think it's good to have a policy that is endorsed by the full board because it provides for some uniformity and consistency from chair to chair and from meeting to meeting. That's all.
And if you're comfortable with that, I'm comfortable with that. I just wanted to make the point that
No, you're
some
right.
of these things are kind of funny we just talk about because it's covered in statute. I was disappointed. I had to listen. I can't remember why I was, but I was listening, or I watched the Shellfish Committee, and maybe this goes to the policy you talked about, where they said, I think the chairperson said, and I'm sorry if I'm not exact, chairperson said something to the effect of, well, the select board, something about not accepting public comment. And I thought,
No, I think what he said was he was conducting his meeting in accordance to how the select board did theirs. I don't think that his committee had really even had a discussion on public policy, since we have had a discussion about that, and they're going to bring it up as a matter of how they conduct their business.
all right, so be it. However, the issue still exists where at some point, somebody on a committee, a chairperson, decided, in this case it was the Shellfish Committee, that I'm going to either do what the select board told me, or I'm going to follow what their lead is. And doesn't matter, either way is wrong. The Attorney General recommends that we accept, we encourage and accept public input. And so I was surprised at that comment at that meeting.
And I just want to say for the record, and I'm in my 11th year.
I need to clarify that a little bit, only
go ahead,
because I did, there was a public comment period during that meeting. It was conducted in the beginning, and that particular person had chosen not to speak at that time. Since then, I think that the chair has cleared it up with that person and moved on.
I think every committee.
And to further clarify that, it's still wrong. In my opinion, that is still a flawed policy where we would, in this case, I think it was one or two people in the audience, maybe one. The one person wants to speak, sorry, it wasn't at the beginning of the meeting, on a particular subject, and I just think as public bodies, we should be encouraging that sort of thing, not discouraging it, almost no matter what the circumstances are. I would err on the side of public participation before, as a public body, saying, either you got to do it at the beginning or we're not going to hear from you. The fact is, this chairperson has the responsibility and all the authority that he or she needs, and I would encourage that we have public comment, if there is any, after each subject, limit it, to some period of time, 2 or 3 minutes, that's fine. And if there's somebody who's abusive, well, no, we're not going to accept it.
Yeah, you just have to be careful on dealing with the abusive ones because of the limitations imposed by the SJC. But the statute gives considerable authority to the chair. And as far as I know every committee that I'm liaison to allows public comment. They may not have, quote, a public comment period. They allow contemporaneous public comment. Some do have a public comment period. The regulatory boards are very strict on when and they should be. But I do want to say one thing. This is my 11th year. I welcome public comment, and I listen to everything everybody says. I do. And sometimes it influences me, and sometimes it doesn't, even though I might have a preconception of how I'm going to vote when I show up at the meeting. So anyway, I appreciate everybody's. Did you have something that you wanted to add? I
No, I would just hope we'd see how it went if this this passes, if you will. I don't know if we're going to put it to a vote or whether we're just going to agree on a protocol or a policy or a way of doing business. But I would like to revisit it in 6 months, 8 months to see how it goes. And I agree with Mr. Smith here on, this is the chairperson's responsibility, unequivocally. Unequivocally, it is. And the chair's got to run a tight meeting.
Might I suggest that if there is some consensus to doing some kind of a change, that we have a draft prepared, because I'd like to have a policy in place that guides the chair. And, you know, we can put in there that the chair has absolute discretion to do anything he or she wants to do. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, and I agree with Jeff, and the only caveat to that is, it looks like, I don't know, I guess it was in 2024, the then board public announcements and agenda request policy. So going to your point, we may have to deal with, probably we'll have to modify
That one as well.
No, it is in the select, in the chairperson's.
I think there still is floating around a policy we adopted, the one that, do you remember, Corey, Norm Pagan came to you and me?
Yes, Norm
and
came to.
before the board. I think ultimately I voted against it because there was some strange thing that was.
In 2024, you reviewed both the public announcement and agenda item request policy, as well as the public participation policy. That was,
But there was a public participation policy for committees and boards that didn't apply to the select board that was adopted.
correct, but that did not come back before the board at this time. I can get that
Yeah,
and include
I'm just
that.
saying, I think it's in place still.
As far as I'm aware, yes.
That's what governs committees.
Yeah, we had circulated this policy to the boards and committees, encouraging them
Yeah.
to follow the
Yeah.
select boards.
Yeah, I had a problem, and when I remember voting no on that when I was outvoted, because I wanted to give, because three committee chairs came before us. I think there were regulatory chairs, Mr. Messina, Mr. Silver, and somebody else, maybe Mr. Nixon, and said, we would like some time to review this. And so I wanted to defer. This is history. So I voted no, but it was adopted, but I think it's still in place. Stuart.
Jill, you mentioned that, and somebody else did too, so, that, is there another policy that encourages the committees to do this, or is that was just a vote or something?
No, there's a
is.
policy
There is.
that was adopted, I want to say, I think Seth was on the board at the time.
Our policy was circulated to the other committees as kind of a template, like, you know, this is something you.
Okay,
Yeah.
But
that's
I-
fine,
but I
this
think-
doesn't say that.
No, I think there is a third policy that was voted in, I think Seth was on the board. And probably, I'm not sure, Shireen, whether you had joined us at that point. Well, you wouldn't have. So, yeah. I remember it.
I mean,
Anyway,
one way.
we'll dig it out.
Right, one way to move forward would be to.
May I suggest that Corey, would you be okay if, you know, maybe Kathy could draft something up with your input?
Sure, I
on
mean,
and be
basically
presented
the
at
bullet
future
point,
meeting,
bullet
which
points
would-
I'm hearing is, you know, chair discretion.
Time limit.
Time limit, you know, it will establish a time limit, and then it can be amended at the discretion of the chair, because obviously there's gonna be certain
Yes.
topics that are gonna be a little bit
Yes.
more involved.
Yes, and I would specifically, as it is in the current policy, exempt
Certain
committee
exemptions.
appointments, personnel issues,
Right.
and whatever the chair
Any
says.
other bullet points that we're missing?
Consent calendar.
Consent calendar maintains, I'm
Yeah, well,
fine
they
with
talk
that.
about,
Well,
they talk about a consent calendar in the current
We
policy.
do, and I
Yep.
think the consent
We
calendar.
haven't really
not to-
done that.
Not to interrupt, but the consent calendar would free up some time should those
Yeah.
comments downstream
Yeah.
become more involved.
Okay, yes, Stuart.
Maybe, sorry Kathy, but maybe at the same time, we could review that policy that encourages whatever the committee, whatever committee to do, whatever you wanted them to do, but I think it ought to reflect what we're trying to do here as well.
I'll research both the
Yeah.
policy you're thinking of and add in wording to this policy
All
to
right,
that effect.
but I do want to say, we have public comment and welcome on this, and I know there's someone on the board, and I saw that first before I'm going to the in-house folks. So Nicole Stern, I think you wanted to say something, if that's you.
Yes. That's me. Thank you. Good evening. It's Nicole Stern. I wanted to say that I appreciate that you're discussing this issue again. I've brought it up several times too. I believe that there was a time, not that long ago, where things in the public's view became a little off balance. And I specifically remember at one point, again, I can't tell you if it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, where there was no discussion allowed anymore as the items were being discussed by the board. And if the public felt that they needed to make comments with the approval of the chairperson, they could request to do that, but it would be after the vote and at the end of the board meeting. Now, that made no sense at all. And I think a lot of people that spend time, as you know who they are, for hours with you to get through a meeting, really felt like they were being controlled. And I don't think that they've gotten past that. So I do believe things were somewhat off balance. But again, I appreciate that you're discussing this again. And I hope that you will vote tonight to allow public participation during the discussion of an agenda item, and not at the beginning of the meeting when our comments are totally out of context. I think that after the select board discusses an agenda item, then the public is heard and then you vote. That makes sense. I think it would make sense to the public too. Policies should be made through a process subject to citizen concerns, and reasonable limits can be set for the amount of time a speaker may, for each specific agenda, have. I don't telephone or text or email any of you, or interrupt you at the grocery store either. But I would appreciate, after hearing your comments on the issues, which I've heard, and I do appreciate it, to have the opportunity to express my thoughts or ask a question and have it answered. Many times, citizens ask a question. Sometimes it's a question that I would like to ask too, but no answers are forthcoming. So I ask that the public be allowed to comment in real time on agenda items, and that our questions are answered and not ignored. It's not much to ask of you, and I thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. I just wanted to clarify that I think we're moving in that direction, but I don't think we're going to be taking a vote tonight. I think we're going to want to see a draft policy that reflects the thoughts that were discussed tonight. Yes, John Holgren.
John Hargan again, South Chatham, and obviously I'll be brief because it's freaking late. But as somebody who basically has sort of dropped out of coming to your meetings simply because of that change in the policy, because I kind of felt that typically when I would comment, I would try to do my best to sort of emulate like Norma Avalar. Basically, she would come up and give a 30-second zinger, and instead of like a 3 or 4 minute prepared speech. And I've never had a prepared speech. I've maybe at most had a few notes written, scribbled. But the reason that I wanted to comment typically was because of my previous career as a computer programmer. I would write one line of code or change one line of code and spend a week testing it and debugging it. And so you guys would come up sometimes with a proposal and I'd go, okay, but what about? Did you think about this or something like that? And I've been told over the years by various select people and so on, yeah, we didn't think about that, so thank you for bringing that up. Because even with the 5 of you, you know, there's some things you may not have thought about, and that's where I felt I was able to contribute, was that, you know, the whatabouts. You know, not necessarily trying to influence your vote, but just trying to make sure you had a better product. So I'm happy if you can go back to that, you know, and, all right, thank you.
Thank you, John. We miss Mrs. Avalar's comments, and we miss your red hat. Thank you, Brian.
Brian Phillips, 374 Orleans Road. It's just, to me, it's tough to make meaningful comments and have meaningful questions without having all the information. Usually find out a lot more, you know, during the topic. So it'd be a lot easier. I just think it's tough to comment at the beginning without having the information.
Okay, thank you. I don't see anybody else, either here or online, so we'll wrap this up. I don't think we need to take a vote on this.
No, let's
We'll
get a
just
draft so we understand.
Get a draft.
We're still clear what we're talking
Kathy
about and bring it back.
Corey's in the lead because this was your item. We'll bring it back with the points that we discussed. And
Yes,
we'll-
please.
We'll have a vote at that point. Thank you. Next item, discussion on camera use. Oh, I did want to say, for the record, we did receive, I received 2 emails, I think that we all did. One was from Elaine Gibbs, that long email she had to discuss this, and we had one from Michael Westgate. This isn't a public hearing, so I'm not going to read them, but they will be part of the record, and I think we all read them independently. Next item is discussion on camera use by remote public participants in select board meetings. Vice Chair Jeffrey Dykens. So Jeff, this is your item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we had it was a larger FTE complement or a larger group of people, but at my last employer, Duffy Health Center, we'd have meetings and staff meetings. And folks would raise their hand online. A lot of it was remote. We'd have a large staff meeting that was remote. Folks would raise their hand and turn their camera on. So you knew who was talking, you know, who it was, you know, you could see them emote. It was a real person and it was live. And it worked really well in terms of getting to know people, getting to understand who they were, what they were about, and touching base. And I sit here sometimes and a voice is speaking to us with a letter. And I would just like to put a face with the letter, if you will, or letters. And I think it's a matter of respect for both the person speaking with respect to the seriousness or the weight of the agenda item and respect for the board itself to say, hey, here I am, this is what I have to say on this agenda item, and I think it's a matter of courtesy and it's a matter of respect. I sat here tonight thinking, you know, was that an off-base, you know, request? Well, maybe not so much. We sit here in the live meeting, everybody wants to be recognized. They are recognized, they come to the podium, they state their name, and we see them. What is different by that practice than what's on Zoom? Now, town council says, you know, it's not enforceable. We enforce it here every meeting. Every meeting, a person that wants to get up and speak comes to the podium, states their name, and they get to address us, and we get to see them. We get to see their passion, how they emote, who they are. I don't know everybody in town. We had a speaker the other, you know, important items. The woman from the Squire the other night, the manager. I have no idea who that person was. She was blank to me the whole night. That's not right. You have an issue of importance to the Chatham Squire and to the town that affects neighbors. I want to know who's speaking to us. That's all. And you know, I would ask for a protocol of sorts for those folks that don't mind. Please show their face while they speak to us.
Jeff, are you talking about a person who was sponsoring an item or anybody?
I think anybody, both sponsors and anybody. If we're going to recognize people speaking publicly after every agenda item, we want to know who they are. Thank you. And honestly, it's a matter, in my pea brain, a matter of courtesy and respect.
Corey?
No, I do think it's reasonable. I understand where you're coming from, and I definitely think if with technology, if people feel comfortable doing it, I would encourage it. But I think the tricky part is we'll have people that are online, you know, from Teams and stuff, and then we got people who are calling in on their phone, which have, you know, no capability. So we're setting standards for 2 different categories. So that's a little bit, you know, that's a little bit tricky, I think. I think honestly, people who have decided not to attend meetings at home are sitting in their comfy clothes or eating their dinner or taking a bath or whatever. It's like, we don't want the camera on. So, we have all experienced some things that in the beginning when when technology started, and we looked at that camera and we're like, oh Lordy, what's going on? And these are people's private homes. So I think it's a very slippery slope. I understand philosophically the concept of it, and I don't take issue with that. I think it's just very hard to have a hard set policy, because there's so many elements in the private sector and private homes and having, people phoning in and teams in. So you're setting rules for different people. So I think we can encourage it for sure. No problem with that. I just think it's hard to kind of set a hard policy, but I'm open to conversation here.
Anybody else? Shereen?
This is one of those things that it's not probably enforceable, Jeff, and I totally agree with you. I find it really rich almost that people are, will just hide behind like not turn the camera on. Teams and Zoom all have components to be able to put a blurred background in the back if people are concerned about policy. I like to see somebody's face. I sometimes react weird and I get called out on it if I just, and I'm vulnerable to that. And, I thought with the Squire presentation being so important that, nobody even came to the room. I mean, I would encourage people to come to the meeting and be part of the process here. I just found the Squire issue was a phone call, being on a phone and not being present. It's an uncomfortable thing. I could say, okay, you know what, guys, I'm no longer available for this meeting to sit on this dais anymore. I'm going to just do this from my house. I'm not going to show my face, and I'm just going to weigh in when I want. And I don't think that gives the quality of the relationship that we're looking for. I think that we can't, I would just simply encourage people. I don't think we can set a policy, Jeff, but I could definitely encourage people to please, come to the meetings. That would be the first thing to say. If you're not able to come to the meetings and you want to watch on cable TV, you can do that. If you want to listen in, you can do that. But if you're going to want to participate, let's try to have that exchange, that exchange where we are seeing each other. Just my thought, because it's just I think it helps. It helps, certainly helps.
Stuart?
Reading the book that you guys provided me when I got elected, it's it's a loose leaf. It's got all sorts of information there. I think Jill and someone developed it. I didn't review it right before I came here, but I think some of this is addressed in the open meeting law. At least if it's not in the open meeting law, it's under some recommendations by the Attorney General. I guess where I'm at is, not that we have to listen to town council, but he does say we can't require that. So I don't know, are we going to, I wish he had given some supported, okay, why can't we require that? What statute does that say or whatever? Because right now, we don't have that. So,
Well, with all due respect to town council, we do require it. If people show here, we require it. We require that they come to the podium, that they say their name, and we see them. We do require it.
yeah, I'm just saying, I'm just repeating what
So
he says.
But we're not being consistent, is my point. We are not being consistent with the application of our protocol.
He's commenting on remote public participation. I agree with you. If you're here, we're obviously seeing you.
Right.
I just, when we get a legal review like that, I like to see the references, so I can read it. I like to know what I'm talking, I like to know what I'm agreeing to or not agreeing to.
Totally agree with you, and this is too loose.
Well, I was going to,
So,
I don't want to, I don't mean to interrupt you, but if you, because you have more to say, but since you were talking about what he said, I'd just like to read that, because Kathy did reach out to him.
Oh, okay.
And he, in his response on June 3rd, this is from Mr. Talaman to Kathy, "This is still some uncharted territory. As a threshold matter for a normal agenda item, as opposed to an open forum or a public hearing, the board can choose not to allow any comments." That seems to be off the point. That said, if the board allows comments, it probably can't require that someone turn on their camera or even identify themselves, which I find puzzling, although they can certainly request that people identify themselves. What I would suggest is, and I know you have more to say, so what I would suggest is we consider this. We refer it back to him and ask him to develop some kind of language as for a protocol that we would, even if it's language of encouragement, that we might consider adopting. But go ahead, Stuart, I'm sorry, I just wanted to throw that out.
I'm trying to think of the reasons why somebody might not, I mean, I'm sitting at home on a Teams meeting, I kind of look behind me and go, geez, is there anything stupid here that I got to remove? You know, I got to point out the door or something. So I just, you know, I just think that we ought to be encouraging as much public comment appropriately, time restricted, when possible. And I'm wondering if we say, doesn't look like we're headed that way, but if we were to say, you have to show your picture, are we going to discourage people from speaking? Because we don't want that, right? That being said, I'd be happy if town council would expand upon that. I read the open meeting law and some AG information, and it seemed, I seem to recall that it would be tough to require it. Now, I also would, I think I'd take exception to town council's opinion that they don't have to give their name and name, because I think they do.
I don't know where that's coming from.
Yeah.
That's
I think
surprising to
I
me.
think I've read that you can, as chairperson, require that.
Yeah, we always do. Jeff?
Yeah, with all due respect to Jay, I thought his response was off the mark.
Well, the first sentence certainly is. It's irrelevant to your
Yeah.
inquiry.
Two out of the three sentences was off the mark. So anyway, I would agree that we can remand this to him and, you know, try to craft something a little bit. And I understand about the encouragement versus requirement. I think the requirement's probably not appropriate. However, we should encourage folks. And there's both teams and Zoom have the ability to fog out your background and just show your face, and it's very, very easily doable. And I think as protocol, as a matter of courtesy and respect, we ought to encourage it.
Okay.
Part of our protocol.
All right, someone will have to show me how to do it.
I was just going to say, somebody's going to have to show me.
We have the background. We have the background, I
You
know.
can put a background.
No, I understand, yeah.
No, she's got her photo up here. That's right. I could do that.
Okay, so is there a general consensus to ask town council to draft up a protocol that he thinks is legal?
There you go.
Okay, we'll do that. No vote tonight. Oh, wait a minute. Any public comment on this? I don't see any. Oh, there's G, whoever that is.
Yes, thank you. It's Elaine Gibbs.
Ms. Gibbs. And Elaine, you did send an email that your email covers this issue as well. Go ahead, please.
Right, and so I would beg to differ with Mr. Dykens about showing respect to the board by you being able to see our faces. Right now, I'm looking at a black screen again. As soon as I start speaking, it goes to black. I think you're the elected officials, you're the public figures, we should be able to see you. Right now, I can't see anything. I see the letter G on a black screen. I think to say that we owe you that respect and you don't owe us that respect by me being able to see you right now. Okay, now you've turned it on. I would ask that you continue to do that in the future instead of putting black screens up.
It's on,
And now it's back.
Elaine, excuse me for 1 second. It's on in the right hand in the column. Yeah, I don't know how that's regulated.
Well, right now it's black again.
It's black.
Yeah, I can't see anything.
It will go black and either your icon or the letter G in this case, or or a full picture of the person speaking will be on the left, and on the right, it alternates between individual board members or the full board. So there is a picture of me up there right now, I see. Go ahead, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
That's all right. This has changed in the last month. I'm now black. I now can't see. Every time my voice starts, I can't see you. So I can't see you react to what I'm saying. When I stop speaking, then I can see you. That's a change. So I would ask that that be fixed so that we can see it. This is very strange. You're in black and white, and now you're back, but it keeps going in and out.
The picture's up there right now while you were, it came back on while you were speaking, so I don't know how that's regulated. We'll have to clarify that. I don't think there was any, I hadn't noticed any change, and if there was, I don't know how that happened. I don't think there was any intention to change anything, but I hear you.
Well, it's been going on for well over a month, and I'm just asking that we be able to see you when we're speaking. It's off again. I can only see a G.
Okay.
But I also feel that there are many people in this town, half of them are over 65. Some of them have a hard time even getting on to do a video, never mind trying to block out their backgrounds. Some people are sick. Some people are in their kitchens. Some people are having dinner and getting up and leaving, and they don't know how to regulate that. And so I think it is an invasion of privacy for people. If you want people to participate, you make it as easy as possible for them. You don't make it difficult. And I think what's happened over the last 2 or 3 years, you have made public participation almost impossible. You make people hang around and guess whether or not certain items, we have to prepare our statements at the beginning of a meeting, and we may or may not find out that, okay, you can speak later. And so we have no idea how to prepare for meetings, and people give up. And so I would ask you to keep in mind that you're the elected officials, but we pay the bills, and we have a right to participate. And whether or not you consider it a business meeting, we still are the ones that ultimately bear the consequences of your decisions. And it would do everybody more good to be able to get input from the public so we feel like we're being heard, and then you make your decisions. It's very simple. I don't think this is rocket science. So that's all I have to say tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elaine. I think, I don't know if you were on during the earlier part of the conversation when we were discussing Corey Metter's proposal, but we certainly are moving in the direction of contemporaneous public comment that I think is consistent with what you were advocating for. And as far as this item, I think if we come up with anything, it's going to probably be language of encouragement rather than any kind of mandate or directive.
Well, I thank you very much for that.
Stuart. Thank you, Elaine.
You know, sometimes it's just easier to dispose of the little things, and Ms. Gibbs' screen going black sounds like it's on our end. If we could fix that,
Yeah.
you know,
Maybe it's, if we should have a conversation with
if it isn't on our end, well then.
how that happens.
I assumed she could see us all the time.
I know Ms. Gibbs had asked about this previously, and Chatham TV and the IT department did provide an answer, so I can forward that to the board, but basically it hasn't really changed according to, they focus on the speaker. If the board is speaking, the camera will show the board, at least per the email, and I can forward that email response from Craig Rowe, who replied to Ms. Gibbs's question the last time she did ask about this.
I think what she was saying is that if you look at the screen now.
Yes, so what we're seeing on the screen now is what is shown in the Teams meeting.
Yeah.
So it focuses on the speaker. So if her camera is off, yes, it's going to go to that black screen with the G because that is how she is logged in. And it is focusing on her as the speaker. But then when it comes back to the board, it switches back to the board.
But contemporaneously with the focus on the speaker, on the right column, there is a picture right now of the board.
Because right now, we are the ones speaking.
Yeah.
So it's different than what we see here in a sense because we feature the speaker here, but when public comments, it features the speaker, and if they have their camera off, it will appear as a black screen or whatever, you know.
Dictated by the technology, or is that?
It's just how I think Chatham again, I can forward, I don't want to misspeak from that answer, but there was an explanation provided for like how it
Yeah,
is done,
I
and
personally have
it's,
not seen, observed that has been a change, so.
I haven't observed a change either in
I-
the 2
you
years
know,
I've been here either.
We'll get hopefully some further clarification. Did you have more, Jeff?
No, I thought we were on camera all the time.
Okay.
I didn't know it was a change.
So basically, well, in our case, like at the top left-hand corner is what the public is seeing right now. When Dean opens the meeting, camera's on him. If I'm making a comment, camera's on me. If, I don't know, Frank Messina, I always have to pick on Frank. Frank gets online, turns his camera on, we're gonna see Frank's face and Frank's voice, but he's the focus of that moment.
Correct.
Okay.
But it shouldn't go black, right?
It only goes black if they don't turn their camera on. So what she's saying she's seeing is the black screen with the G, and that's how she currently has her camera off, and it shows the login initials for however you're logged in. If I was logged in right now, it would be TM. Jill has her picture there. So it's whatever the icon is. If your camera is off, that will display as the speaker when you're featured. That's how Teams functions.
Elaine, your hand is up. Did you have a final comment on this?
Yes, I would, because I think there's some confusion. I got the explanation from the control room, but it was the reverse situation. What I'm trying to say is it has always been, until 1.5 months ago, that when people were calling in remotely, they would be able to see the board while they're speaking. Just as if the people in the room get up to the podium, they could see you speaking. And then, after I actually called a couple people out for passing notes and talking while I was talking, the very next week it changed, where my camera would go off and I could not see your faces when I was speaking. It was a black screen, and it happened to everybody else, and that was never the case. We would be able to see you as if we were in the room with you. And so I would just ask that we go back to that.
Okay. Well, thank you for clarifying your point.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
All right,
I
thank
think
you.
we're done with this item
Well, for now.
for now. We never finish anything, Stuart. You get used to it. Next item is discussion on minute taking for select board meetings. Clerk Stuart Smith, turning to you now.
Mine is a whole lot easier. I'd like to be able to develop a draft policy with Kathy, assistance, to address how the minutes are taken. I care less about, honestly, what the policy says, as long as it's consistent with the open meeting law, as opposed that we have one, so we have consistency. Maybe recently there has been, but it's sometimes depending on, who's taking the minutes and who's sitting in these seats, depends how some of those minutes have been taken. So I would just like to be able to bring it back to the board for you guys to look at and consider whether you would adopt it or not.
Okay. I appreciate your, I asked you yesterday what you were planning to do, just to get an idea. So I took a look again at the open meeting law, as you have done. So this is what the open meeting law says about minutes. It's section 22 of chapter 30A. A public body shall create and maintain accurate minutes of all meetings, including executive sessions, setting forth the date, time, and place, the members present or absent, a summary of the discussions on each subject, a list of documents and other exhibits used at the meeting, the decisions made, and the actions taken at each meeting, including the record of all votes. So that's what the state says you have to have in your minutes, and I think we do have that. But I have no problem with what you're proposing, Stuart, and this would be another thing where Kathy would work with you.
Sure.
And you come back and we could see what your
Whether you like it
thoughts
or
are.
not, yeah.
Does anybody have any comment on that?
I guess I was expecting something today to look at. When is the particular piece of this, that, is it just to put the open meeting law in our words? Is there anything else you wanted to add? Because there was a couple people that commented on citing quotes and whatnot in their letters. Was that something?
No, I wasn't particularly interested in that.
Okay,
I was
okay.
really looking for making sure.
Oh, your mic.
Getting yelled at. Compliant, to ensure that we're complying with the open meeting law and to make sure, we can go beyond that. I don't know that we want to, but we could go beyond what's required there, and maybe that some of the board members want to do that, I don't know.
I don't myself, but I.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to have a consistent policy, and so if this changes in the future, you know, they got to come back to the board to get that, whatever they want to change. And I was going to bring you a draft, but I was encouraged to get
Wait.
permission first from you guys
Oh,
to develop the draft. So here I am getting permission.
Yeah, the minutes have historically, in all my time, been prepared by the executive assistant, Kathy, and before her, Shauna. Well, there were one or two people in between. So it's not, we haven't prepared them. We, you know, as you've watched meetings, we amend them, correct them, and whatever. from
Sure,
time to
yeah,
time.
yeah.
But, okay, is everybody okay with this approach? Okay. Any public comment on this one? Hearing none. Okay. The next one is mine. Consider rescinding the backlog of agenda item requests and allow for a fixed period of time for sponsors to submit a new request for the item via the executive assistant. We will accept public comment on this. So I broached this a couple of weeks ago because I wanted people to think about it. I think this is probably something in large part, I could just do by fiat, but I don't want to do it that way. I'm concerned that we have over 60 items backed up on this and requests from people who are no longer on this board. And some of these items are moot. They've been overcome by events, or they've been dealt with. And there are some items that probably shouldn't be on there in the first place. Let me elaborate a bit. And I want to say that the staff memo that Kathy prepared on this talks about, focuses on the requests that come in from select board members, but as the agenda item indicates, I'm also talking about requests that come in from the public. So, by my calculation, we had, where did I write this down? Yes, we had currently 62 requests, not including yours from tonight, Stuart. 23 are from the public, 39 are from the select board, or staff. There's some of those that mixed in. I think there was over time, at the staff level, they organized these according to topic, and some staff items were added in. And there are a couple of duplicates there between categories. So here, the rules are that if a select board member requests something, it's supposed to go on within a month, absent mitigating circumstances, whatever those are. But that's the rule. I've referred to it as the Taylor rule because Seth put that in a few years ago. Then the public announcements and agenda request policy says that a member of the public can offer an agenda item request, and the chair can decide whether to put that on an agenda or not. This list is really not a function of this board. It was a tool that was put together at the staff level to just keep track of this stuff, which is a good thing. So I'm looking at this as, you know, coming in as chair, and I made an effort when I was chair back in 2018 to reduce the list, and I think we made some progress, but over the years, it's just been added onto by all of us and the public. So what I'd like to do is to, you know, in the courts, they call this a strangulation list. You want to whittle it down, and I'd like to reduce it and bring it down to a number where we can start moving some of these things forward for board consideration when it's merited. So what I'm proposing is that all the items on the list be rescinded. And that whoever, and we start with the select board, whoever on the select board has an item here that they want to keep, they go through the list and they email Kathy. And we give everybody, I don't know, 2 weeks, a month, whatever, to do that. And so those will stay on the list. And working with Jill and Kathy, I will do my best to try to move them forward. We're obviously way over a month on a lot of these, on almost all of them, I think. As far as the public is concerned, the same process. If you have submitted something on the list, that's on the list, and you want to continue with it, you notify Kathy within the same time period. I would then take a look at those items that come in from the public, because I have discretion as to whether to put them on or not. And I'll meet with the town manager about it. And, you know, my intention would be to be liberal and generous and encouraging items to go on the list. But there may be some items that don't belong on the list because they're not they're not germane to the business of the select board. I'll give a concrete example. I'm not going to put on the agenda any item that talks about, that asks for discussion about the compliance by an individual employee of the town, including members of the select board, with the state conflict of interest law. We have an ethics commission that deals with that. I don't think that belongs before the select board. There may be an item that let me see if I can read my notes here. Yeah, there might be some items that, to me, make no sense for the select board to spend time on. For example, there might be a matter that is better addressed by the town staff as administratively, and we shouldn't waste the select board's time, spend select board time on it. So, but I think those, you know, if we have 20, what did I say, 24, 27, whatever it is, public matters, publicly requested matters right now, I don't know how many of those would be, you know, renewed, but let's say there were 15 that were renewed. I'll take a look at them. My predisposition is they stay on. They'll go back on. And there might be one or two that I have a problem with. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the board's endorsement to proceed in that direction. Yes, Jeff?
Endorsed. So the only question I have is, when do you want our feedback? What time limit? A couple weeks, 3 weeks?
How long do you want? Because I'm open to it. This has been sitting
Well,
here for
John,
years.
well, you gave us a heads up a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I've been through it, so, I mean, I can do my deal in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Now, it's just a question of Kathy's gonna be a little overwhelmed, I think.
Yeah, she's got enough other stuff
got
to do.
enough
We gave her
going
tonight.
Anyway.
I mean, we can do a month.
That's an easy.
We can do a month.
This stuff has been on here for 10 years.
Yeah, some of the stuff's been on there forever, I mean, so.
So
I think
let's
to
let's
help
take
you
a-
out, just so you know, so we just, up until this afternoon, we asked the departments to review this and provide notes on what may better be addressed in a department monthly report and so forth. So what we can do, it's color-coded. Kathy can send it out tomorrow if you want to use that as your baseline, either to you or if you want us to, I'll give it to you so you can look at it. And then, oh, all of them? Okay, we'll pass out copies for all of them.
And one other thing I wanted to add is, I neglected to mention it, with respect to public requests that I determine I'm not going to put on the agenda, I'll communicate to the sponsor, and either directly or through Kathy, and say, thanks for your request, I'm not going to put this on the agenda because, and I'll give a reason. And so, because I want to be respectful for.
Rather than having it just dangle there.
Yeah, there's no point.
Right,
So what we'll have on the list ultimately are items that are viable, including all the ones that the select board members want. So that's, Stuart.
So I don't have any problem with that, because I wasn't here for most of them, so it's easy for me. That being said, just to, the ethics, I agree with you. Any ethics complaints that somebody might have out there about any members of any board or commission.
Or a town employee.
Or a town employee, doesn't come here.
Yeah.
That would be, I can't imagine some of like where that could go. That would just be bad, I think. It's not our purview.
It's not really appropriate for the board to be discussing.
The,
I have always believed that the compliance with the conflict of interest law is in the first instance with the individual who is subject to the law, between that individual and the statute and the Ethics Commission.
I'm glad you said that. I could not agree more. I think we get into bad territory if we are going to, whether it be town employees or the board or the committee, we get into very tenuous situation here, because the statute is a arrangement between the employees, as you point out, and the Ethics Commission. The town of Chatham should have absolutely no direct or indirect role in that. I think that that's a very important.
Yeah. There is a provision under Section 23, I haven't looked at it recently, where administrative action can be taken, but against an employee for violating Section 23, but
if there's a violation.
Yeah, if there's a violation, you have to establish that there's a violation.
Well, but we don't establish
Yeah, I
that.
know.
The Ethics
We shouldn't.
Commission. Right,
We're
we
not in
shouldn't be
business.
doing, the Ethics Commission would establish that,
Yeah.
and maybe there would be
Yeah.
some administrative.
And the public should know, we all employees of the town train, and all committee members train in the public, train in the conflict of interest law. We take that exam, every 2 years, we have to sign, we get a certificate and all that.
And we do that at the request of the Ethics Commission.
Yes, it's
not
state law.
It's
Yeah.
not a town of Chatham
No.
function to do that at all.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that that's important, and we may have to review some existing, like, I'm not going to call them a policy, but existing practice, because I would go so far as to say, we saw somewhere where somebody was applying for, maybe it was David Oppenheim, I don't know. But when somebody's applying for a committee or commission, it's in the memo giving some information, and it says in there, has complied with the Ethics Commission. And
It means they've taken the test.
no, I know what it means.
Yeah.
I know what it means.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to take issue with that at this moment. I think it's a broader issue. But I'm not crazy about it.
Okay.
But
The reason,
For another night.
And it's rather new that that's in there, by the way. I think we've had it off and on. The concern that we've had as a board is that we have had a number of employees who aren't taking that test, and that's a
Actually, committee members.
committee members.
Committee.
I'm sorry, thank you for correcting me. It's committee.
But in our discussion, it doesn't matter. It's committee members or it's employees.
Yeah, but. Yeah.
Whatever we're doing
But
would reflect for both.
The deficiencies are among committee members.
Yeah, sure. And
I don't like having people going on committees and they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And the information used to be gathered by the town clerk.
Yeah.
But it's not anymore. It's, the state does, they've taken over that.
Right.
So anyway, thank you for your points. They're well taken. Did you have something additional, or?
No, I'm going to add to your agenda request, but I'll do it at another time. But it's going to relate to this subject, and it's going to relate to what the role of committees and committee chairpersons are. I'm not comfortable at all with where we're drifting into, and I want to make it clear that our the town's compliance with the open meeting law, it's not negotiable. We have to do that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about the open meeting law here. I'm talking about
Yeah.
these agenda.
Yeah, and right, and we chatted about the open meeting law in a previous subject, and I just want to make it absolutely clear that, that the committees, no matter who they are, employees or whatever, but in our case, committees and regulatory committees, they fulfill their requirements under the open meeting law, not somebody else.
Yeah.
Because I see, relating to the, to our discussion the other night, and I can bring it up on an agenda item if it's necessary. Actually, it was tonight about the Water and Sewer Committee. This posting is a copy of that posting, and it puts the posting being done by Pamela Jones. Pamela Jones is not the committee chairperson. The committee chairperson should be posting this. That's what the open meeting law says, and we have to comply with that.
Well, I think we're going a little bit farther
getting
afield
off
from this topic, but I think you certainly can bring that up.
I'll put it on a future agenda item.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
So let me just, I'd like to offer a motion then, that the, that the list of agenda item requests be rescinded, and all sponsors, including select board members, will need to resubmit any requests they wish to reinsert on the list within 30 days. And the chair will determine which of the requests that are citizen requests will be reinserted on the agenda. I guess that's it. Did I miss anything?
Just a point of clarity, I thought you said before that you would review with the folks that citizen requests.
Yeah, so we can add that in. And the chair will review the citizen request to determine which will go on the agenda and respond to any citizen whose request is determined not suitable for the agenda.
Correct.
With a reason for it. That's the motion, long motion. And is there a second?
Second?
Okay. And now, any public discussion on this one?
Did you say a month?
1 month, 30 days. Okay, hearing none, so I'll call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Thank you very much. Okay. Next item is consider committee appointments and reappointments. So we initially have, if I can find my notes, we have 4 items under this. The first is a slate of candidates for reappointment to advisory and non-regulatory committees. And Kathy clarified, we do have some Board of Health folks on. We've always regarded that as a regulatory committee, and it is, but apparently in the committee handbook, it's listed as a statutory committee. That's why they're on there. If someone wants to pull those names and have interviews for those individuals, if I can find the list.
And then adding
Is this the list? Thank you. I'll give it back to you. And I'm going to read the names on the list for public benefit, but the idea would be to have a general vote of reappointment for these folks. Incumbent members seeking reappointment to a 3-year term expiring June 30th, 2028. Nick Brown, Assessors, Bob Oliver, Bikeways, Robert Noonan, Bikeways, John Beckley, Board of Health, Robert Hilliard, Committee for People with Disabilities, Patricia Burke, Council on Aging Board of Directors, Nancy Fields, Council on Aging Board of Directors. We had accidentally omitted her from the page that's in the packet, but a revised page was provided tonight. Jerry Stahl, Energy and Climate Action Committee, Michael Stello, Golf Advisory Committee, Thomas Campbell, Independence Day Parade Committee, Frank Shearer, Open Space Committee, Robert Dinney, Railroad Museum Committee, James Sullivan, South Coastal Harbor Plan Committee, Jeff Gordon, Traffic Safety Committee, Ann Ryan, Water and Sewer Advisory Committee, Jeff Colby, Water and Sewer Advisory Committee, Andrew Dunn, Waterways Advisory Committee, Edward Conway, Waterways Advisory Committee, Jared Bennett, Working Waterways Advisory Committee, James Nash, Working Waterways Advisory Committee, Robert Ryder, Working Waterways Advisory Committee. Incumbent members seeking reappointment to an associate or alternate seat with a one-year term expiring June 30th, 2026, John Kale, Board of Health, Ron Weissar, Board of Health, Gary Tennyson, Open Space Committee. So,
Mr. Chair, I just need a point of order here. I thought the committee was Working Waterfront Advisory Committee,
so
not
too.
the Working
that's
Waterways.
so too, we'll make that correction.
Okay.
Thank you for pointing that out, Shireen.
Okay.
So I'll offer the motion. I move to reappoint the slate of, there are two motions, but I'll move them together. I move to reappoint the slate of incumbent candidates as presented as members to their respective committees until June 30th, 2028, unless sooner revoked or successor is appointed, and also to reappoint the slate of associate or alternate candidates presented to their respective committees until June 30th, 2026, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Dykens.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And the chair says aye, 5-0. The next is the Cemetery Commission. Bear with me for a moment while I get my... Okay. I have it. So we are asked to appoint one member of the Cemetery Commission to a 3-year term expiring June 30th, 2028. We did interview on May 27th 2 individuals, Judy Patterson, a new candidate, and David Whitcomb, the incumbent who is seeking reappointment. I did watch the interviews. I was away, but I did watch the interviews, so I guess, is there a motion on this? Yeah, okay, so we have one opening, one vacancy, or I should say vacancy, one opening, and I'll accept nominations for that. We need someone to nominate, and a second, so.
Mr. Chair, if I can just clarify, it was noted that Mr. Whitcomb had not completed his ethics training. He has contacted the commission, and the issue was he didn't assign to Chatham, so he's in full compliance.
He's in full compliance, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move to appoint David Wickham to the Cemetery Commission until June 30th, 2028, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Are there any other nominations? Or if there's what we would do is we can have multiple nominees for the same position, and it has to be nominated and seconded. So that effectively you made a nomination.
I did.
You used the word motion, but that was what was wanted.
I
So,
nominated.
Stuart, did you want to say something?
Is it appropriate
Yes.
during this process to ask questions, make
Yeah,
statements? or
you can. We don't typically offer comment, but what did you want, what was the nature of what you wanted to do?
Well, it was more of a, it was more of a, maybe it would be better. Maybe it would be better for an agenda request, but I hate to suffer through that. I guess I can address it there. I did have a conversation with Mr. Wickham. He was nice enough to take me on of course I know David, take me on a tour of the cemetery to kind of understand a complaint that had been made. If it's appropriate to bring it up now, I'll bring it up. If it's not, I'll bring it up at a different time.
I would say this, we have, in all the time I've been on the board, and I think prior, whenever committee appointments have come up, we've never had substantive discussion about the merits, pro and con of the candidates. I think there's always been a concern about, personalities and comments that might be made. So
During what?
Personalities. We've always.
Oh, during this process?
Yeah, during.
Oh,
this
yeah, yeah,
process,
okay.
During this process. What way this process was designed to work, and I know that because I put it together some years ago, was that if there were multiple applicants to a particular position, we would accept nominations. And then and a nomination required a second. So if, in this case, there were two applicants for one position, if there were a second nomination and that were seconded, then we would take a vote and people would recite the name of the person they're voting for. And whoever got 3 votes would get the position. So that's how
Okay.
this would work. So right now, we have a nomination for Mr. Whitcomb that's been seconded. So if I would entertain, if there's a second nominee that someone wants to put forward, I would entertain that before we take a vote. Is there anybody that wants to nominate the other applicant? Okay, I'm not hearing that, so we'll call the roll. So effectively then, there's a motion to appoint David Whitcomb to the Cemetery Commission until June 30th, 2028, unless sooner revoked or successor is appointed. That was made by Mr. Dykens and seconded by Ms. Davis. So I'll call the roll. Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Dykens.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And the chair says aye. So Mr. Whitcomb is appointed, 5-0. Thank you. Summer Residence Advisory Committee. So we have 4 candidates seeking reappointment and 2 new candidates looking for an associate seat. Let's take the regular seats first. We have 3 applicants: Christina Mead, Roger Donald, Ron Mandersheet. They are all incumbents seeking a 3-year term. You want to take these one by one? There are no other applicants for the regular positions. Is that right, Kathy?
The open seat was the associate seat. I left them blank if the board wanted to
Okay.
appoint whoever they wanted to appoint to whichever term, but currently the only open seat is the associate seat.
Okay,
It is
well,
the
we'll
board's
deal.
discretion to appoint however.
We'll deal with that, but right now we have 3 incumbents, and there are 3
Correct.
regular seats
Correct.
that are open. So
Yeah.
I would suggest, I'll entertain a motion to appoint one of the 3 incumbents first. Yes.
Corey's going to bring it up. I think.
Well, I was going to say, because Mr. Drinkwater's looking to become an associate, we have 3 candidates for the 3 open regular positions. So we could just simply make, I move to appoint Christina Mead, Roger Donald, and Ron Mandershine for 3-year terms to the Summer Residence Advisory Committee until June 30, 2028, and the sooner revoked or successor is appointed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. I'll call the roll on that. Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Dykens.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay, so now we have 1 associate position available.
Just to be clear, we have 2 associate positions, but 3 candidates.
3 candidates.
1 incumbent, 1
Two,
incumbent.
Correct.
okay, I'm sorry. We have, thank you. We have 2 associate positions available, 1 incumbent, Mr. Drinkwater, and we have 2 individuals who have, whom we have interviewed, who have applied for that position as well. That's a 1-year term that would go to June 30th, 2026. Want to take these one by one? So we'll take the first.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I move to appoint Don Drinkwater as an associate member of the Summer Residence Advisory Committee until June 30th, 2026, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
I'll second that.
Okay, I'll call for a vote on that. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay, now we have 1 position left, and we have 2 possibilities, Mr. Koblish and Mr. Pinto. whom we both
Mr. Chair, I move to nominate Cam Koblish as an associate member of the Summer Residence Advisory Committee until June 30, 2026, unless sooner revoked or successor is appointed.
Is there a second? I'll second it for convenience. Is there another nominee for this?
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Frank Pinto.
Is there a second to
Associate
that?
member of the Summer Advisory Committee.
Second.
There's a second. So we have two candidates who have been nominated and seconded for the associate position. And I'll call the roll, and please recite the name of the person that you want. Ms. Davis.
Frank Pinto.
Mr. Dykens.
Frank Pinto.
Mr. Metters.
Cam Koblish.
Mr. Smith.
Want to make sure I pronounce it right. What was the name you
Cam Koblish.
Koblish?
Koblish.
Yes.
Mr. Koblish. And so I break the tie, huh? The chair votes for Frank Pinto. Okay, and that completes that one. Economic Development Advisory Committee, and we better appoint this because we just gave them something to do. And on this one, we have two candidates. Mr. Lugi, I forgot how he pronounces his name, and Mr. Gracia,
And Mr. Jolly.
and Mr. Jolly. For how many positions?
3.
Ray, okay. All right, do I hear, want to do them all together? Well, wait a minute, there is a move to,
Two different
is
terms.
Mr. Daly is an incumbent.
Oh, so there's also Mr. Daly.
Have we heard from him?
Mr. Daly has indicated he would like to be reappointed, but I pulled him off the slate because of the term dates here. I figured it just made more sense to put them all in the same report, so.
Oh,
Mr. Daly, Mr. Daly is listed on the very bottom of the three.
Yes.
So is there, his seat is not one of the 3 we're going to appoint?
No, he's being reappointed to his seat. There's 3 open
Okay.
seats on the Economic Development Committee, 2 with terms ending 2027, 1
Got
with
it.
the term ending 2028.
He's being reappointed, but have we interviewed him?
Did they reappoint Bill Daly already? or
No,
still need-
that's why there is a motion, a proposed motion at the back of the report listed for reappointing Bill Daly
Mi-
as well.
Oh, I see.
I want to move this along. It's 10 o'clock. It's been working since 5.
Yeah, so-
Mr. Chair, I move to appoint Adam Gracia as a member of the Economic Development Advisory Committee until June 30th, 2028, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
Second.
Okay, I'll take that one first. Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Dykens.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We have another appointment till June 30th, 2027.
Mr. Chair, I move to appoint Gerald Jolly as a member of the Economic Development Advisory Committee until June 30th, 2027, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
Second.
Okay, we'll call the roll on that. Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Dykens.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. And we should take a vote on Mr. Daly. Is that, we have not, or did we already approve him? Was he on the
No,
slate?
no, there's one more open seat too, if you want. There were 2 seats for 2027.
And do we have another candidate?
Michael Lugley.
Oh, Mike Lully. All right, do we have a nomination for him? Okay. I don't hear one. Okay, so there's a,
I'm confused. I'm confused. Do we have Mr. Daly yet to appoint?
You need to reappoint Mr. Daly next, yes, please. He's the incumbent who is up for reappointment
For a 3-year term?
for a 3-year term,
I
correct?
move to appoint Bill Daly as a member of the Economic Development Committee until June 30th, 2028, unless sooner revoked or successors.
Second.
call the roll. Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Dykens.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So we had that one, we have the one other position that goes to June 30, 2027, and there was no nomination for that.
Nope.
One last call, is there a nomination?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we'll call the roll on that. Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Dykens.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, and we are adjourned at 9:58.